Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Official home of the Sixers, Flyers, Union, and the best Eagles talk in Philadelphia. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Good morning. Thought I'd help you wake up.
It's 6 a.m. and you're listening to The John Kincade Show, Philadelphia's longest-running sports talk morning show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Let the party begin!
The show starts now.
Good morning, Philadelphia. John Kincade Show. John is out on vacation. So is Bob, Pat Egan, Connor Thomas. Ray Dunn in for... Well, I mean, me and you really aren't in for anybody. I guess Ray's in for me. We're normally in, though.
We don't need to get caught in the weeds. It's Pat, it's Connor, it's Ray.
It's a good point.
Everyone else is gone.
Good point.
They'll be back.
They will be back. They're missed, and they will be back. The boys are enjoying some nice R&R, and they'll be back Tuesday because everybody's off Monday because Labor Day. Cool holiday. Love it. Anyway. It's a little distraction from what happened yesterday in the day part. Kind of ruined my afternoon because the Phillies just ripping a defeat from the jaws of victory was not really ideal. Didn't really have that in my fun plans for Wednesday. And it kind of ruined for me a little bit of the magic of what Bryce Harper was able to do, hitting his 300th home run. Not just a 300th home run, but a go-ahead 2-run shot in the bottom of the 8th inning that gave them the lead, and then Kimbrel comes in and blows it. It goes back to, I feel like, who this team is, where they'll just drive you nuts. Is it the end of the world that they lost the last game of a 3-game series against the lowly Angels? No, it's not the end of the world. But it's the way that they went about doing it that frustrates the hell out of me. They can't hit a guy that has a 5 ERA, and then they finally end up breaking out because the numbers will tell you. I mean, after the 6th inning, this team, like, all of a sudden becomes the Murderers Row Yankees. But the bullpen just lets them down again. And that little creep of doubt, that negativity, that, devil on my shoulder all of a sudden starts getting louder when a game like that transpires, where all the good mood that I had and all the good feelings and good vibes, whatever you want to call it, heading into yesterday's game, they're not completely gone, but it's the reminder of this team's deficiencies.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
I mean, I get being frustrated by the way they lost the game. And I get having concerns with the bullpen right now. And Craig Kimbrel, and we had that conversation earlier this week. Is he tiring? Is he leaking oil? And then I felt no at that point, and now I'm forced to reconsider the fact that Craig Kimbrel may be tiring. We know he's been around for a long time, so that's something to be concerned about. But it doesn't change the fact that they hit 59 home runs in the month of August. Yeah. That's good for the third best. Well, it's tied for the third best month in the history of baseball when it comes to hitting the long ball. It doesn't change the fact that Bryce Harper is just unbelievable. Like, he is the best Philly I've ever watched play in my lifetime. There's something that I'm going to want to get into a little bit later in the show where we talk about taking that statement even further. But yeah, they lost the game. Yes, that sucked. Should they have beat the Angels? Absolutely. Should they have even been in a position where Bryce Harper's 300th home run needed to be hit to save the game? No. Like, they should have handled that Angels team. If you had told me when I woke up yesterday that the Phillies are going to score 8 runs today and they're going to hit 2 more home runs and Bryce Harper's going to hit his 300th, I would have said, great, how much do they win by? And
I would have said the same thing.
Yeah, and they found a way to lose that game. That's troubling. But the month that they just had offensively is something that has to leave you in a positive light. Like, they're just a good baseball team. They win more than they lose. They won another series. Did yesterday suck? Yes, but I refuse to let the last couple innings of yesterday's game, really not even the last couple of innings of yesterday's game, the last couple of innings defensively of yesterday's game ruin what was a really, really good month for the Phillies and stop me from seeing that this team is going to be a problem in October.
That's where I want to be. I want to be where you are right now. I want to be, in the Connor seat.
You can be. It's right over here.
Yeah.
I'll scoot over. We can lap up.
That would be a sight if we were just sitting on our lap. I was sitting on your lap doing
We'll be
the
hosting
entire
as a
show.
team today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring
That's
your
a
tuxedo.
full team effort. Yeah, tuxedos aren't so funny anymore. By the way, if for people on YouTube that can see it, that hoodie's awesome.
This is Rally House right here, baby.
That hoodie's great, man. It's the and for people that aren't on YouTube, it's like the old school Phillies. So he's got a baby blue hoodie and then the maroon Phillies. It's like just an old school look,
logo on it. I love this
cool.
hoodie.
I don't know about the Durham Bulls hat. It doesn't really make sense because it's not the
I had a
AAA
lot of people
affiliate.
complaining on YouTube that I wear the same shirt every day and the same hat every day because I guess they don't understand it's the victory shirt. But so I went with different hat today, different shirt today, different everything today.
I
even changed my underwear.
I have 2 hoodies that I'll wear and I'll rotate. This isn't even a hoodie when I'm wearing it. It's like a thin layer. I don't know. It's got a hood, but I don't consider it a hoodie. But I'll wear them because our studios get cold. So I kind of just keep them in the car and I'll grab them and need be. I'll usually grab them going in the show and put it on for a bit. And then if the studio warms up, I'll take it off. But I probably get the same crap. It's
not that important.
Also, we're not trying to be fashionistas. Usually at 4:30 in the morning.
Speak for yourself over there.
I apologize, Ray. Are you trying to all right, so this is actually a pretty good question for you because me and Connor are as used to getting up this early as I guess you can be. But for you, you're kind of that like Swiss Army knife, and this week you've had to get up way earlier than you were expecting. Are you laying out clothes? Are you actively thinking about what you're going to wear, or is it just I'm throwing on anything? I don't really care. It's 4:00 in the morning.
Take a look at me. I'm just picking whatever I see first.
No, I asked because you look good.
Oh, well, thank you very much. But, I'm just looking at what I get to first, pretty much. This morning, there was the half a second panic of what time is it? Am I awake in time? All worked out fine. I'm here. I'm awake. I'm ready to go. But, yeah, this wake up time, you guys are champs for this one.
Tell you what.
I mean, we're not champs. We're not saving lives.
Shout out to my youngest, Riley, who listened to the show. Got the message about not acting up 45 minutes before my alarm went off.
Oh, you got to sleep in today?
He started crying at 2 a.m., and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, because
he start crying at 2, I can get back into REM sleep. I can have a full cycle. I'll be good to go. So shout out to the youngest. If I'm going to rip him, I'll praise him when he does right.
It's good coaching right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, would I love for him to actually sleep through the night? That'd be cool. But nothing that anyone else hasn't had to deal with. Ray, how do you feel after yesterday's performance? Because everything Connor said is right. Like I come on being a little too negative about the team, but it's just the last memory I have, and it's less than 24 hours. How are you feeling going into September after watching what happened about 4:00 yesterday? Give or take.
Still feeling good about September, but it's one of those feelings, and I'll equate it to the Giants game last week where Harper does something incredible, and you just assume this team's going to pick up behind him and get the thing done. And they didn't yesterday, and that was one of the frustrating parts. Also, just kind of the missed opportunity there with the strikeout that gets Moustakas on base. Like that ball, I'm a Stubbs guy, but that one, I think you got to have that one. You have to have that one. And I think that was one of the things for me where when the Giants game happened, I looked at JT, and he had the opportunity to drive in the winning run in that game, and he struck out. In this game, it's Stubbs that you should have been able to have that one and get that strikeout, and we're not in that situation. So I think there's just those small miscues, those small missed opportunities, and a long season. Will they be forgotten by the end of the year by those of us who aren't sickos? Probably. But those types of things, the difference between a couple more wins on their record, and the difference between this team being a 90-plus win team and being somewhere in the high 80s. And not that it's going to matter with how great the Braves have been, but those opportunities become magnified when you end up in the postseason. And those types of small miscues are the cause for concern for me. Again, going in September, I still feel fine about this team. I watched them win 17-27 in August. They were hitting the ball like crazy. This looks like the lineup I expected, save for the catcher position. But this looks like what I expected. I am worried about the Craig Kimbrell. You mentioned leaking oil, about the number of appearances. I've been worried about that. And you saw it again with the Drury homer. Like, there's just seems times where he just can't get the ball exactly where he wants it right now. And I went back, and I think it was on Sunday when I was on, we watching the end against the Cardinals, there was a pitch to Contreras that they wanted low, and that ball was right down the middle. Contreras swung right through it, thank goodness. But there's just certain times I see him not being able to execute to the level we saw earlier this season, and that leaves me in a little bit of a concerned state with him. Every time I see him start to get going in a 3-run game, I would love to see them, hey, maybe we trust someone else out of the bullpen for this one, because I would like to see them kind of curb his workload a little bit as we get more into September.
Yeah, I'll tell you where I'm at right now, right? Because this is how I kind of looked at the Phillies offense prior to this month, and I think it's the way I'm going to look at their bullpen and the starting pitching early on in games, because they've been giving up the lead early often over the past couple weeks. But when the Phillies were having that question about where will the power come from? Will they have power at any point? How are they going to create runs with this offense? Because they looked like they weren't doing it to the level we thought they were going to. My thought's not there's a problem. It's something to keep an eye on, right? We're not in October yet. And this team is destined for October. We're all still in that boat. And until that changes, unless they go on like an 8-game losing streak, and all of a sudden we're looking at will they make it, even make the playoffs? That's when we start worrying about this stuff now. What this bullpen issue and what the Craig Kimbrell issue and the guys giving up the lead late that we've seen recently despite the good offense, to me that means that that's a focus point for the next month. I'm going to be zoned in on those guys and say, okay, you guys got to perform over the next, 2-3 weeks as we get down to the end of September when you start getting everything squared away for the postseason. And if we get to that point and we're still looking at this, that's when I start panicking. That's when I start saying, okay, I don't love where this team's at. Do I like where they're at right now as far as the bullpen? No. But does it matter right now?
Yeah, when they had a month like that.
Also, no. It's not even that they had a month like that. The bullpen could stink the rest of the way. I still think this team is good enough that they're going to hold down the top wildcard spot.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So what does it matter right now? It's a point of concern to focus on, but it's not something to lose sleep over.
It's a talented enough bullpen where you can understand if they struggle, them still being able to flip the switch.
I don't know that I totally agree with you there.
Okay, well, I was trying to clear where you were going with this.
I'm just saying the bullpen could stink right now, but it doesn't matter because they're going to be the top wildcard seed even if they stink. Okay. I'm not in the business of, with such a long season, being concerned about problems right now if they're still going to be in the same seed regardless of the problems in my mind.
I went to the eye doctor recently, probably the past 3 months. And he's like, hey, you have this thing with your eye. You got to get it fixed. It's like a minor procedure. And, the place is literally across the street from our building. I'll set it up. And I went, what happens if I don't get it fixed? He's like, well, you cataracts, you got to get fixed. It won't be a big deal now. You won't even notice it now. But, 15 years, 20 years down the line, do you want to go blind? And I was like, no, that doesn't really seem enticing. So I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, essentially.
In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal now, but you need to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't snowball into, oh crap, what did we do?
Yeah, but it could also get better on its own. It's a good analogy.
So it's just my eye can't get better on its own.
We don't need to worry about fixing a problem that by the time it matters might not be a problem anymore. So that's not to say I'm not worried about it, and this is not to say, Craig Kimbrell, great job yesterday. No, he stunk yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's had a couple rough outings.
He's been bad.
And there's some guys in the bullpen that I'm worried about. But I'm not worried about the team as a result of it, if that makes sense.
It does. I think what the problem is that Craig Kimbrell didn't have the new Frosty Cream Cold Brew before yesterday's game. And he could have. He could have had the new Frosty Cream Cold Brew because there's 3 different flavors. There's vanilla, caramel, and chocolate. We're probably going to try one today because today's Wendy's Day. But you can taste it for yourself. How the perfect dessert also makes the perfect cold brew. You just have to go to participating Wendy's. That's all you have to do. Maybe if Craig was, all beamed up, maybe that would have helped.
It might have been.
But I'll tell you, man, he's probably my biggest concern going forward for this team because when you look at what he's done his past 7 games, his past 15 games, and I'll pull the numbers up now, it's concerning. It went from it's a couple bad outings to legitimate concern. Last 15 games, 4.20 ERA. Last 7 games, 6.43 ERA. Last 15 games, 4.20 ERA. Goes back to what Ray said. Is he leaking oil? Could it fix itself? We've seen that. We've seen pitchers just kind of work out of it. Is he tired? Is it a mechanical thing? They got to get him right by the playoffs because you're not going far if you can't close down a ninth inning. I remember the anxiety that I dealt with in 2009 with Brad Lidge, where Lidge's ERA was like 7, and he just could not get through the ninth inning. I think he had 15 blown saves that year, and his poor performance almost cost them the first round of the playoffs against the Rockies. Luckily, it didn't because Ryan Howard came up and had me to get me to the Plate Boys game. But, it was like every game you had no confidence. And I'd almost rather have a bullpen by committee, which I hate, than have a closer limping into the playoffs where you're going to end up having to face the Braves if you get out of the wild card round.
Dude, you're right, and it's such a valid concern right now with this team. Like, if you point to anything over the past month, there's only one other contender in my mind, and it's why are the Phillies pitchers struggling early in games? I wonder the same thing. Me and my buddies were talking about Taijuan Walker. Like, if he gets out of the first, he's okay. But that
first thing I worry about.
It almost feels like more of an anomaly. That one, they're just in like this weird stretch where they're giving up runs early, and I don't think for the entire month of September they're going to give up the lead first and always be playing from behind. It was just one of those weird stretches, and I'd like to see them work out of it. But between those two things, those are my two biggest concerns with this team right now. I'm just saying that the wild card race is so weak; it's not going to matter.
It is weak. I mean,
and they have a month of basically, I'll call it practice baseball, even though it's not, and that's underselling how important the next month is, but. They have a month of, in my mind, practice baseball to figure out all of these kinks. And when we get to, I don't know, the third week of September, I'll say, okay, well, this is the trend that they're on that's going to carry them into the postseason. Who is the immediate concern right now, and how do you address it?
They have for anyone that thinks that I'm being a little too negative, you're right at what you say. I mean, I expect them to make the playoffs. They have a 5-game lead on the wild card. They have a 3-game lead up on the Cubs for the first spot. Cubs are in second. They won yesterday. It was a frustrating game to watch. I don't know why you pitched to Ohtani in that spot.
Yeah.
I don't care that a base isn't open. That is the dumbest thing to me is like, oh, well, if a base is open, guess what? There is a base open. It's third base. Just walk the guy.
I agree.
Why are we pitching to him? Oh, okay. So if first base was open, you were going to walk him? Makes no sense to me. All right. We'll get into it later. Morning binder time. We've been skipping these, but I did have one. What's the cheapest state to live in?
Alaska. They pay you to live there.
Okay. What do you got? Cheapest state?
Wyoming.
All right. Good guesses. Because you kind of went with the desolate, who would kind of want to live there. Mississippi.
Really?
Cheapest place. Now, you could find a job where any job will, there's jobs here in Philly that will pay you to come here.
Yeah.
But
I thought you got like a payment to move to Alaska.
Alaska is so expensive because it's tough to get product there.
That makes sense.
Like, I remember seeing a video on Amazon products where it's like, at best, we'll get our products within a week.
There ain't no Prime out there in Juneau.
No, not really. I mean, it's disaster. I would never live out there. Would you ever move to Mississippi?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever been?
No.
And I would not move there.
I would. There's no way.
No. I know someone that just accepted a job there, and I'm very happy for them. But
Pride of TU?
pride to you.
Who is it?
My guy, Jake. Shout out Jake Chessberger.
I was going to say, like, we're just going to call him Jake, like a random Jake.
Yeah. Shout out, Jake.
You got to go where the jobs go.
Yeah, hey, listen. We'll get you back here in Philly at some point.
Yeah, right? It's like you got to go off, you're going to do your time, and then we'll get you to, like, I don't know, Pomona Beach.
If you got a Wendy's there, if I got a bar that serves good whiskey, I can survive. I'll be good with that.
I'll tell you, I know a guy that used to work here, and he's kind of doing this, like, tour of the country thing with him and his dog, and he's not going to these vacation destinations. He's going to these, like, Shreveport, Louisiana type spots and living and working there for like a little bit. And when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, he posted a thing of, I had to drive 45 minutes to find a bar that was playing it. And I thought, okay, so you're living in Baghdad. If you're driving 45 minutes to find a bar playing the Super Bowl, you're living in Baghdad. You're not living in the United States anymore because that's a place I don't want to live. You know, Philly, we can probably walk 4 minutes in any direction and find a place.
Less than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Bar on the right. Yeah. My favorite game.
Well, this whole segment's been brought to you by Farm Safe 811. Reminds you to never assume location or depth of underground pipeline utilities. Always contact 811. Farm safety starts with you. Learn more at farmsafe811.org. Lots to get into with more of the Philly stuff, positive and negative, both sides. You know, you gotta balance it out. We also have Eagle stuff to get into, and we have game time today coming up at 8:30. You won't want to miss that. Life-changing prizes. Results may vary. Pat Egan in for John Kincade, and you're Connor Thomas. You're in for Bob Cooney, and Ray Dunn's in for me. It's the Skeleton Crew, but it's the John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Today.
5 The Fanatic everywhere. On Alexa at 975thefanatic.com, the Fanatic app, and now on Odyssey. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
We're back. Late running in here. I was talking to Ray Dunn about the old Temple Owls football program because they're back on Saturday. You can hear all the action right here on the Fanatic. I was asking Ray, when do the Owls play the week after? Like, what time's that game? Ray said, it's 7 o'clock. I'm like, well, that might be a Saturday night for the boys, huh? That might be, me hitting down there, asking some people if they want to go, getting a bunch of no's, and same phone, who dis? And then next thing you know, I text Ray, and he goes, it's at Rutgers. And I go, I'm not going there. I'm not traveling to Rutgers.
Hey, Rutgers is nice.
I don't want to surround myself with the fighting Dylan McKinnons. And while I love the D train, I don't want to be. If Temple underperforms, I don't want to be surrounded by that crowd. I was at a Temple Rutgers game in Philly probably like 5 years ago, and it was rough because that is an insufferably annoying fan base. Everybody thought they were the extras on Jersey Shore, and it was tough to listen to.
No,
I'm sure Rutgers has a lot of great alumni that aren't annoying.
Yeah.
But the annoying ones all found their way to the link that day, and it got me to, no, I won't go. And I've traveled to see Temple before. I went to Maryland, which was cool. Went to Notre Dame, which was cool. But no, I'm not.
Never Rutgers again?
Not doing that. I won't do Rutgers, won't do Penn State.
Tyrone's going to be upset with you.
That's fine.
Dylan McKinnon might come in here.
That's the beautiful
wanting
thing
blood.
about being done at 10 is I can get out of here before Tyrone ever sees me, so I don't have to even deal with that wrath.
I'm just saying, be careful what you say about Rutgers. New Jersey's not one to be messed with.
Am I supposed to be scared of Jersey all of a sudden? Because you guys got corn?
Yeah. Corn is the first thing you go to?
What should I go to?
Tomatoes?
Tomatoes, good pick. Blueberries, a lot of good stuff over there.
Look, my Jersey hatred is on record.
Garden State.
I do not like that state.
It's not the corn state. It's the garden state. We got everything.
I don't. I mean, what's in a garden? Corn. Am I wrong on this? Corn's in your garden.
Feels like more of a farm thing, no? You've been a big cornsman in the garden?
I needed you to back me up on
What
this.
is a farm if not a big garden?
I needed you to back me up on this. And what do? You throw me under the bus.
Listen, man.
We need Temple unity right now.
Yeah, I could go against Jersey with you. I just, want to clear up the whole corn. I was kind of intrigued if you were growing corn in a garden. I've never seen that before.
Not a Jersey guy. Not at all. I like a lot of people from Jersey, but my favorite band's from Jersey, but not a Jersey guy. Anyway, what they do have in Jersey, they have them everywhere. Wendy's.
Huh.
We'll be having it later today.
I can't wait.
It's Thursday. But you can have it today. You can try the new Frosty Cream Cold Brew. 3 flavors, vanilla, caramel, or chocolate today. Taste for yourself how the perfect dessert also makes the perfect cold brew at participating Wendy's only. All right, guys. Enough of the Jersey bashing and Temple discussion. I'm going to ask you guys, how much do you think in sports team chemistry matters? I ask this because we've seen some teams flourish, succeed, win championships, and yet you'll find out later they all hated each other. And I ask mainly looking at this Phillies team, because even though they lost yesterday, I feel like this team is such a great, united bunch. I mean, their chemistry, I feel like, is off the charts. You've got Jose Alvarado making necklaces and giving it out and giving crap to the players that aren't wearing it, right? And you've got, the backing of Trey Turner, and you got Garrett Stubbs bouncing around, and everything about this team tells me that they are really, really close. They're a tight-knit group. And I think baseball especially is a sport where it's such a long season. Me and John have gotten into this before, and we're both agreeing, but probably 60% of the job as a manager is keeping your clubhouse together. So when you look at sports, and in particular baseball, how much does team chemistry, do you think, how much does it matter?
Well, in baseball, it's paramount. Like, of course, talent is the most important thing. Like, can you build a team of guys that are good enough to win? Yeah, that's the goal of every GM or president of baseball operations or anything like that. Like, that'll always outweigh. I'm not going to say, like, if guys like each other, they're better than the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah,
No.
you can have Little Sisters of the Poor. They loved each other, and people use them as a laughing stock.
There were a lot of teams in Williamsport over the past month that really liked each other. Great team chemistry with those kids.
Those kids played Fortnite like nobody's business.
If they play the Phillies, they're getting smoked. No, talent.
And that's a fact.
Yeah, talent is utmost, but I think team chemistry, especially in baseball, is underrated just because of how often these guys are with each other, how much time they spend with each other. It's 162 games. It's a long-ass season. And if you don't get along, locker rooms fall apart. And that is the first thing I always kind of look at when I see a team like what's going on with the Yankees this year, what's going on with the Padres this year. Teams that are supposed to be really good on paper.
Padres are a great example.
Yeah, teams that had success last year that all of a sudden out of nowhere is just like, what in the world is going on? And if you can't point to like major injuries, the next thing I normally look at is team chemistry. And that might be the organization. It might be individual players. For the Yankees, I think it's the organization. For the Padres, I think it stems from the Tatis stuff from last year and not being as much of a team player as you should be. And I'm not so into those teams that I know the inner workings of them, but the Phillies have that going for them, and that's why I think I'm so comfortable with this team at times where they struggle.
The Padres are such a great example because they were in the NLCS last year against the Phillies, obviously, but you figured they were going to be a really, really tough test because Tatis was back. I don't know what it is about that team, but yeah, it's clear that there's a disconnect. I mean, you've seen Manny Machado act up in the dugout out of sheer frustration. You've heard him kind of pop off in the media about the chemistry. I'm blown away that baseball, though, is a sport that really is affected by it, only because you've got pitcher and hitter.
Right.
It's not like you're really basketball. You're relying on guys being in certain spots. Hockey, same way. Hockey, it's like the plays. And I'm not talking like slap bleep beer league, but the NHL, when you have designed plays, you need to be in the right spot. It's all about the chemistry factor. In baseball, it starts off with a 1v1 battle. Pitcher versus batter, and that's why I'm so surprised that chemistry matters. And I think it matters in all walks of life and all jobs. But baseball, out of all the sports, I wouldn't expect it to matter the most. But I think it matters arguably the most.
I think that's why it matters, because other teams you're forced to work with your teammates more. Like, you are forced into situations that breed relationships. Like, you're not going to be a part of an NFL offensive line without having a relationship with the other guys on the offensive line. You're part of one unit. Baseball, you're not forced to work with anybody. So you almost have to have that chemistry to create that. Like, you have to manufacture chemistry. In the other sports, you work together as a unit, and that chemistry happens more naturally because on the court, on the field, on the ice, you're forced to work with these guys. Baseball, if you don't create the chemistry in the locker room, you're not going to create it on the field, and the team's not going to be as good.
That's well said. I mean, you played baseball at a pretty high level, so you would know. Ray, team chemistry, does it matter at all? Is it overrated?
Oh, I think it absolutely does. And I think you've seen it now in back-to-back seasons where the Phillies get off to slow starts, and they've got a group that likes one another, sticks with one another, and they sort of pull each other out of it. I think that's a big deal there. I think talent can supersede team chemistry. I don't think team chemistry can ever overtake talent as like a driving force of success, but having it allows you, especially in baseball, as both of you have laid out with the long season, like, this is something that you can't get through alone. You can't do 162 games just sitting in the corner by yourself. Like, you're not going to be able mentally to be able to push through that no matter how hard you try without forging at least some sort of relationship with somebody to help you keep going through it. And I think that's a big thing why it works in baseball, why you're able to find that team chemistry. I think we've also seen it with the Eagles. When things are going great, the culture we talk so much about with this team and the bond amongst guys is there. And you look at, building a shrine to your backup quarterback because of what he's doing, and that uplifts everyone. The mood gets a little loose.
Well, it didn't
everyone
uplift
except one.
Yeah.
But it gets everyone in kind of the push forward. And then, honestly, you see the example of a guy who necessarily didn't have the chemistry with the rest of the team and how that can derail a little bit of where you're going and what the team wants to accomplish. So it could do a lot.
I think it's just in general in life and work and in sports, but you're more likely to give a guy a pass when you like him.
Yeah.
So when Craig Kimbrell messes up yesterday, if you like the guy, it's all right, whatever.
Yeah, like Garrett Stubbs is not getting as much crap as if Andrew Knapp was back there and that pass ball on the strikeout happens in the ninth inning. Andrew Knapp is going to be like tar and feathered and run out of town.
Yeah.
Garrett Stubbs, man, that sucked. But it's Garrett Stubbs.
But it's Garrett Stubbs. We like Garrett Stubbs. Yeah, and it's the fan base which carries over to the on-field product because the fans obviously have a voice, and you've seen that with the Trey Turner stuff, but also I think with the teammates in the angle. I mean, we've all had to work with people that you don't like. You guys work with me today. I think that you can hear that there's no chemistry involved there. I've been fortunate. I've only worked with maybe like 2 people in my time here that I didn't really care for, and
they're both on the morning show with him today.
I was gonna say they're both right here.
Yeah, and we're flourishing, gentlemen. We hate each other. We don't like each other at all. We don't text, but we're flourishing right now.
Well, chemistry is a consolation prize. As important as I might think it is, right? It's not necessary.
Yeah,
it's if you have it, it can lead to more success than you would have without it. But there are some teams that are just talented enough anyway. Like the bottom line is the product on the field. I think the reason that we on the outside look at chemistry as a thing, and maybe in the locker room at a professional level, they don't as much. This would be a good question for Ricky. We'll have to ask him next week. He's on vacation right now. But as to how much it plays in, I think we like it because we like the teams that we root for to like each other.
Yes.
We want them to win foremost, but also love to see them win and have all the fun and enjoy it and everything. And I do think there's part of being a fan that where you overvalue that, or at the bottom line, it doesn't matter. Like I'll take the guy who's hitting 50 home runs and nobody likes.
Well, okay, so is it overrated?
It's a tough call. It depends on your perspective from it. I think from a fan's perspective, it's hard to say it's overrated because I don't know. I don't feel that it is personally, but that's the reason why I think I'm biased.
Okay. Yeah, I go back and forth with it. I mean, I think there's a little bit of overratedness when you look at like the 90s Bulls. You can't tell me that team really liked each other, but they were extremely talented. They didn't really seem to get along all that great. It didn't seem like they were hanging out. I mean, they were playing cards in the back of the plane, but like other than that, I didn't get the sense that they were, going to their kids' birthday parties and whatnot. I think back to the 2006 Phillies, and this was such a minor story, but it kind of goes back to what we're talking about. And if you remember, the 2006 Phillies, if they had beaten the Astros one time, they would have made the playoffs. So in 2006, they had a reliever named Arthur Rhodes, and one of their starting pitchers was Corey Lytle. And Arthur Rhodes left ice cream at Corey Lytle's stall because this word got out that Corey Lytle didn't watch the games he wasn't pitching in, and he would just sit in the clubhouse eating ice cream, just kind of like kicking back, not really being a part of the team. Do I think that Corey Lytle not being a part of the team, do I think that led to them not beating the Astros one time? Probably not. All right, but it goes back to playing for each other, playing for all, where the games that were lost in those Astros series were like soul-crushing losses. You had Craig Biggio hitting walk-off home runs off Billy Wagner. That team didn't seem to get along and be a tight-knit group. And I think that's why J-Roll ended up taking the reins in 2007 and saying we're the team to beat and kind of becoming that leader after they traded away Bobby Abreu and whatnot. So it's a small story, but it's a story of you look at, all right, what happened with the team? They missed the playoffs by one game. Could it have been a chemistry problem? Maybe. Maybe the lights were too bright for them. Maybe they just weren't that good. I don't know. It's a tricky situation, but I do agree with you. I think we like, as a fan base, watching a team that you can tell likes each other. Yeah,
and I also think it's just preference because chemistry is such an intangible thing. Like talent, you can look at. This guy has this slash line. He's got this many RBIs, this, that, and the other thing. Other sports, you can look at who's good and who's not. It's very clear by the numbers. But chemistry is a very hard thing to quantify. So that's why I think it's more of a preference. Like, it's more, do you like to see your team have chemistry with each other? How necessary it is to success, I don't know that can ever say. Yeah, I mean, there's no stat that will give it to you, but playing baseball at a high level like you did, how many wins in a 162-game season do you think a team that likes each other will add as opposed to a team that doesn't like each other? And is there any? Dude, it really depends on the players. Like, there could be a team that... Okay, we'll take this Phillies. Do you think they've won any games more because they have such a tight group? I do, but only because they struggled early. And I think a team that wasn't as close, if they had struggled early, could have fallen apart. but because they'd been there before and you have leaders in the room, I think that helps them pull out of a tailspin. So yeah, maybe. But again, like I just can't quantify. It's your own opinion and personal preference, and it's very hard to put a definitive answer on. But it's a fun thing to look into how much. I think it's more an introspective look into how you consume sports or what you value in a team, and that's where the value of this conversation is to me. It's a cool way to look at how you consume sports.
I'll leave you with this story. I think I mentioned it about a week ago, but there's a reliever that was on the White Sox. I think he got traded to the Yankees. I forget his name, but he was talking about the difference. And this is the Yankees we're talking about, okay? This is an organization that just brought up a 20-year-old, and they're done. They've packed it in. Their season is over. Looking at the standings, they're not even in contention, and it is a bad season to be a New York Yankees fan. This guy gets traded from the White Sox, who have 53 wins, to a Yankees team that has 65. Now, there's an improvement there, but the Yankees are in last place in the AL East. You love to see it. So he gets traded over, and somebody asked him, what's the difference? And other than, of course, he had to shave. And he's like, there's accountability here. There's leadership. There's policing. There's actual, like, accountability. We didn't have that in Chicago. There was never accountability. It was guys doing whatever they wanted, and it cost us. So for anyone out there that might think it doesn't matter at all, and I go back and forth with it. I go back and forth with if it's overrated or not. I think it matters, obviously, but I think, is it overrated? You have major league players going like, we specifically did not contend this year because nobody was there to police and to hold us accountable. And
yeah,
I think if John were here, he'd say, well, they shouldn't be, pro players shouldn't need to be held accountable. They should hold themselves accountable. They're getting paid all that money, blah, blah, blah. But you still need a leadership group. And I think this Phillies team has it with Harper, Schwarber, Stubbs to an extent. Like Stubbs, you need a locker room guy. Stubbs is a locker room guy.
I think that's slightly different than chemistry. You talk about policing. Like if somebody pulls me over, we don't have chemistry, but it is going to stop me from speeding again.
Well,
so,
I think it goes hand in hand because you can have a guy in your locker room who is policing. And you're right. It goes to I won't speed again, but I'm not going to like that guy. But you'll like that guy if that guy's accountable. And I think that brings the locker room together. If that guy comes in and does a Jalen Hurts and says, yo, that Super Bowl loss was on me and me alone. No one's taking the blame. Even if you don't agree with the guy, you're like, damn. All right, well, if he's holding himself accountable, I have to hold myself. And if you have a team of guys that are willing to hold themselves accountable and don't really need the policing, I think that builds a tight group. What the hell do I know? I've played slap bleep men's league hockey.
No. Bottom line, though, is whatever the whole mix that goes into it, because I think that's important. I think chemistry is important. I think talent's important. It's hard to look at this Phillies team and say they don't have those three things, because they do. And that makes me feel good about where they're at as an organization.
Well, I feel good about one other organization, Connor. I feel good about the Temple football team.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right.
Year two. No, year two of Stan Drayton.
Tell him about Coach Stan.
I can't count, okay? But Stan Drayton, I have great feelings about this man. I think he's going to lead this. Not there yet, okay? But if he ends up being Matt Rule 2.0, possibly, all right? But Temple football is going to take on Akron this Saturday, 2 p.m. at the Link. You've got Eli Warner leading the charge, Temple's quarterback. What did I say?
Eli?
Oh, jeez. All right, anyway. Well, we're going to just try to get through this. I don't know why I'm saying Eli. I'm a mess today. Kids 8th grade and younger, they can score a touchdown on the field after the game as a part of parent-child touchdown toss day. I just had a fumble, but you can score a touchdown. Kids tickets start at $10. Visit owlstix.com. Apparently, I don't know baseball, and I don't know Temple football either, but I know it's a good product. You should go see it. It is a good time. When we come back, we will discuss some more workings on with the Phillies, and there's some players on the move, at least placed on waivers, that I want to get your opinion on whether you take them or not. Ray has a question about the Birds. All that and more coming up next on the John Kincade Show.
The John Kincade Show. Five the Fanatic, Philadelphia.
So you just laid out a warning
I did.
to all of us out there.
I did. I made some curry chicken, some coconut curry chicken yesterday,
Okay.
and my stomach is
Curry not sitting well with you, huh?
no. I mean, I imagine it's sitting how curry chicken normally sits. Just all that food's got to go somewhere, and
Look, I'm just gonna kindly ask that whatever happens, you do it outside of the confines of a closed-in studio.
no promises. I have a question though, real quick, because I think this might be the dumbest thing I've ever asked on air, and that's
saying something.
That's saying something.
Yep.
So when I was making the sauce for the chicken, I was trying to put the curry sauce together. One of the ingredients was coconut milk, and I do one of the services where they send us no free ads. I do one of the services where they send us the little portions of everything. So I had the little container of coconut milk.
Yep.
I go to open it and I pour it into the pan as I'm cooking the chicken.
Yep.
And it comes out kind of like thick, like almost not lumpy, but almost like a mix between a liquid and a sour cream type of consistency. Do you think that milk was bad? Or does coconut milk just come like, is there thickness to coconut milk?
I don't know. I've never used coconut milk.
Okay.
I would have rocked a Google search on that before I did use it.
It was already in the pan. I wasn't losing the meal. And if I looked it up and it said that it was going to get me sick, I would have gotten sick. But if I don't look it up, I feel like my body doesn't know what it's fighting and I'll be good.
I'm somebody similar where I will throw on like Parmesan cheese to pasta I make. And this happened recently, and I noticed that the Parmesan cheese was expired by like 4 months. And I couldn't eat it.
Was there mold on the cheese?
No. But I was about to be ignorance is bliss. Eat away, happy, healthy.
Yeah.
And then I saw expired March 22, and I went, I can't do it. And I tossed the entire meal.
I've got the results for coconut milk.
You know what? We answered the tough questions.
Go ahead.
On the John Kincade Show.
Getting chunky coconut milk is completely normal.
Let's go.
All right.
So-
So
Yes.
your stomach's messed up. But
I definitely thought I drank or ate a bunch of rotten milk.
dude,
last
if I
night.
see that, like I'd be messed up. I couldn't.
Yeah, it messed me
couldn't-
up,
I
but I'm
couldn't
not
eat
going to
it.
look it up. I convinced myself that I was good, and then I let my body do. Listen, I eat like day-old leftover food truck food. I eat hot dogs that have been sitting out on a counter for 2 days. My body has been trained for this moment, and I'm good. I should be good now. Thank you, Ray.
No problem.
As long as you're good,
I feel great.
because I was worried about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not eat any of that. I'm somebody that I open up a can of like tomato sauce, and if I haven't used it in 3 days, it gets tossed.
Really?
Is it? How long do you guys let tomato sauce sit in your fridge for?
Until I'm ready to eat it. I don't know. If I don't see mold on it,
Ray?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Like open? We talking open?
I opened it, put it in the fridge. If it's not used in 3 days, it's gone.
so why do you just have open cans of tomato
Yeah, I mean,
sauce?
that's sitting there for a while, a little bit longer for me than that. 3 days.
Why do I have open? Because I'm not going to use all the tomato sauce.
But you sealed it back up, right? That's the whole point at the top.
No, I
It's not
sealed it back
open.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole point at the top, to keep it fresh.
How? Okay. Hypothetical here. You guys go and get wings.
Okay.
How long are they sitting in your fridge?
It's 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
No, they're not sitting in my fridge for 4 or 5 days.
Why not?
I let like a 2 or 3 day shelf life
I'm
on like
about.
things that were once alive aging in my fridge.
If it gets to 72 hours, it's done.
How many things do you have that were once alive in your fridge, right? That was kind of cryptic.
Well, I got chicken the other night. So it's
Bob
been...
and John aren't here for a reason.
Wow.
Oh, okay. That went dark very fast.
All right, well, let's get back to team chemistry because Brian in Sicklerville wants to talk about team chemistry. Brian, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, it's Bryn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't read. I don't know sports and I can't read, but sorry about that.
It's cool. So I think team chemistry is important, especially in baseball, because I'm a teacher, and they have studied how classroom chemistry affects students' performance. And if something like classroom chemistry can affect how students are performing academically, then I think it definitely is going to play a role in how players are playing on a team.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's
Brent.
a really good point.
Here's the thing, though, right? And this is where the talent conversation comes in. It's to some extent. If Albert Einstein was in your class and no one else liked him, I think he'd still do well in math. So sometimes talent can outweigh it.
Not like Bryce Harper, and he would still do great, but he's not going to win us a championship on his own.
And he's probably not
so
affecting.
We need to pull up all of the other people.
He's not affecting me, the track 3 kid. Like Einstein's fine, all right? Einstein's doing great, but the kid that can't read and thinks Bryn is Brian, he's not helping me out. Like he's not looking over and saying, "Oh, this kid's struggling a little bit. I'll help him out." That's a great analogy.
So thanks, guys.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryn. Have a good one.
Yeah, I didn't think about the classroom angle, but yeah, I mean, it always helped when you had friends that would help you out in that situation. And I think we're all here because we probably weren't the best students other than Jeopardy over here. Connor Thomas. But I didn't do incredible in school. I was like a middle of the road average student. But I always kind of got, I don't want to say scared off by tutoring, but there was nobody in tutoring that I hung out with, There was nobody like me. If there was somebody like me or one of my friends that was in the tutoring program, and whether it be grade school or high school, that was, helping out fellow students, I might have been more likely to go. I don't know how much work we would have gotten done because we were friends, but it was the kids that I didn't really have a lot in common with. Like they were all going to Penn, and I'm struggling to get into, I'm getting rejected by Temple. So there is something to what she's saying there about the chemistry factor.
No, there certainly is. I think anyone who says chemistry doesn't matter is insane. But how much does it matter? How much it matters is probably an impossible question to answer because for each team it's probably different, and there's no metric for it and everything like that. So it's more of a feel thing, and you say, okay, well, this team likes each other. It's definitely not hurting their chances of being successful. It's just hard to say whether or not it's helping it.
Well, I'll tell you something else that matters, Connor. That's sleeping healthy.
Of course.
SleepHealthyPA.com. Do you snore?
How would I know? I'm asleep.
I'm sure somebody's probably told you once or twice.
Yeah, I've snored a time or two.
Ray, you snore?
Not a big snorer.
No, neither am I. But if you think that you do snore, maybe you think you have sleep apnea. You can check out SleepHealthyPA.com. Finally, a sleep solution you've been looking for at SleepHealthyPA.com. So the Phillies go out last night. Yesterday they end up losing to the Angels in the rubber match. Not the rubber match, the final game. Jeez, I'm a mess today. Final game of the series. Bryce Harper hits his 300th career home run. They go ahead, and then Craig Kimbrell comes and blows it. And it kind of shined a light on my biggest concern with the Phillies moving forward, which is their bullpen. Craig Kimbrell was a steady Eddie for a long time there, but his last 7 games, last 15 games hasn't been great. Blows the game yesterday. They can't end up coming back and end up regaining the magic they had in the 8th inning, and the Phillies end up dropping the final game of the series. But there is an option out there because the August waiver deadline is gone. They got rid of it, I think, 2 seasons ago. I loved it. I love the August waiver period. I looked forward to it. I thought it was like nerd heaven, where you would get basically an entire team put on waivers, and then you'd see if anyone claimed them and was there a trade in the works or whatnot. But the Phillies ended up benefiting quite a bit in previous years from the waiver deadline acquisitions. Matt Stairs was a waiver deadline August acquisition. Jamie Moyer back in 2006 was an waiver deadline acquisition as well. And August was coming and going, and no moves were being made because there was no point. And now what you're seeing, and it started off this year, was teams literally just putting their entire team on waivers, it seemed like, to just have salary dumps. They're not getting anything in return other than salary relief. And the one team that kicked it off was the team that was just in town, the LA Angels. So they put Lucas Giolito, which, by the way, they put basically every trade acquisition they made trying to get in the playoffs that didn't work, they put them on waivers. So you had Lucas Giolito, you had Reynaldo Lopez, Randall Grichuk, Matt Moore, Hunter Renfroe. The Mets put Carlos Carrasco on waivers. Mike Clevenger of the White Sox put on waivers. Harrison Bader, the outfielder for the Yankees, put on waivers. Noah Syndergaard of the Guardians put on waivers. So I probably missed a name or two because all of a sudden teams are like, oh, we can get out of this? Yeah, okay, we'll put these guys on waivers and then pull them back. So Giolito, Moore, Lopez, Renfro, Grichuk, Carrasco, Clevenger, Syndergaard, Bader. Any of those names do anything for you. And if you're wondering, I do have their stats in front of me, so I can tell you what they're doing this season.
Yeah, 1.5 of those names.
Okay.
I would really like Matt Moore, especially with how the bullpens look lately. I think he would be a nice piece to be able to come back here. The tough thing is when people in the city, like I don't know if you know this about Philadelphia, but we can be a little bit stubborn here and there. Just one of our character traits, but
it's happened.
Philly great Matt Moore may have a little bit of some digging out of a hole to do with this fan base, considering the time when he was here and the team wasn't very good and everything like that. But Matt Moore he's having a nice season for the Angels.
He's having a very good season. Matt Moore in 43 innings has a 2.30 ERA, 47 Ks, only 12 walks.
Yeah, that guy's beneficial.
He was a starting pitcher. He was a starting pitcher for most of his career, but here he was a starter, and they transferred him more to reliever, and he's thrived in that role.
Yeah, and Reynaldo Lopez is another guy who it's basically just the two relievers on that list because the bullpen's the spot where I think the Phillies. It's the only spot where I really see the Phillies improving significantly, and I like Moore more than I like Reynaldo Lopez, but that's just personal opinion. I think Moore's having the better year.
Ray, any of those
Lopez.
Names?
I'm interested in Lopez.
How dare you?
Yeah. Sorry. Gotta do it. Yeah, let's do it. Fight right now. I'm taking Lopez. I want the right-hander in the bullpen. I think he gives you a little bit more of a lively arm than what you got. Obviously, you're wondering what Dominguez is going to be. Kimbrel is your ninth inning guy, so I would really love another right-hander that I can kind of slot in there before the ninth. So I would like to get Lopez if they have the opportunity to. The hitters intrigue me until I start thinking about the roster complications that it'll present, and that leads me to believe that they'll keep the Phillies outside of a Grichuk, outside of a Renfro. So I would probably lean on Lopez just because I want a lively arm out of the pen, and I want as much as, and maybe I do have that stubbornness about me about Matt Moore, where I think I'm just sitting here like, but I really want the righty to come from the pen, and I need just one more to feel good about this group right now.
Hey, I'm making fun of you, but I mentioned him too. Like, I'd be cool if they went and got Reynaldo Lopez to bring in. But you're right about the outfielder thing. Like, Christian Pache is on the verge of returning. Once he comes back, you got Pache, Rojas, Brandon Marsh, Schwarber, Castellanos, Jake Cave on the outside looking in. Now, are those guys available better than Jake Cave? Probably. You just watch some of them in this series kind of kill you. But I don't know. Do you bring those guys in over a Christian Pache who's been with the organization at least this year and has shown you flashes of stuff? Yohan Rojas, a young guy you trust. Brandon Marsh, a guy you traded for last year. I don't know where they play, and I don't know if you can just roster them as a bench bat and that's worth it. Like, I don't see the outfield spot on this team being available for those guys to come in.
All right, neither do I. Don't really see the spot. I have no interest in Reynaldo Lopez. Zero.
Why is that?
Part of it is what you talked about with Matt Moore, where you just have like gross feelings towards him. And my gross feeling is horrible, but I had this dude on my fantasy team for like 3 years. It was a deep league. So I had Reynaldo Lopez on my team, and he burned me every year. But also this year, 53 innings pitched. He's got a 3.86 ERA. He's pitched better with the Angels, although not many opportunities. But he had a 4.29 ERA with the Chicago White Sox, 71 Ks, 28 walks. The walk number to me is troubling. I look at Reynaldo Lopez as Greg Soto. He's righty Greg Soto. I have Greg Soto. I don't need right-handed version.
We got Greg Soto at home.
I'm okay. Yeah, that was good. I just got that reference. Matt Moore really intrigues me. I don't really care too much about the lefty. The fact that they've got Alvarado, Soto's a lefty as well. The fact that Moore has gone out and only walked 12 people, I don't think necessarily a lot of Phillies fans will care too much that your last memory of Matt Moore was him probably getting rocked. Because I don't know how many Phillies fans remember Matt Moore even being on the team.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
You know, like they were kind of contending, not really. They were trying to get over the hump, but like, yeah, Matt Moore was Bailey Falter, I guess, at that point. He was more established than Billy Falter. But other than that, I'm surprised that neither of you guys mentioned Syndergaard. Now, Syndergaard is hear me out.
Okay.
Syndergaard is having a brutal season, okay? 6.50 ERA, 18 starts. Would you consider bringing him here, though, to not start but relieve?
No. No, he's just
No.
I don't think he was that good last year.
I didn't want him the first time around.
Now, I wanted him, but I didn't want him because of his talent. I wanted him because he's a veteran who'd been in big spots before. He had pitched in a World Series before for the Mets when they went against the Royals. Like, I look at that experience as invaluable when last year's team had so many guys who had never been to the postseason at all. So now that they have that experience and they've built a better team and you have 6 starters when healthy who could potentially pitch a playoff game, I don't know what the spot for Syndergaard is. I just don't know how he fits with this team.
That's why I brought up, I wonder about bringing him over as a reliever, because last year that's kind of how they used him. Yeah, he started games, but it was like, hey, give us 3 innings, give us 4 innings. I wonder if he could go out there and get an inning. I also bring him up because he was on the team last year.
Right.
And he seemed to like Philly. Players seem to like him. And we just talked about team chemistry. Is he good? No, he's not performing well this season at all. He's not all that expensive. He's just sitting there. I'm not saying I'd be pumped if they went out and got Noah Syndergaard. I'd be pissed off if they got Noah Syndergaard and ended up using him as a starter because he just doesn't have it anymore. I think probably if he wants to keep his career alive, he's going to have to go to the bullpen eventually. Matt Moore had the same thing happen. Like, he just wasn't happening as a starter. He had to go to the bullpen, and now he's flourishing. So I wonder about him. Don't think it'll happen. I think the more likely scenario is they go out and they get Matt Moore or Reynaldo Lopez. Randall Grichuk, though, I need to say this and take it with a grain of salt. I have had a man crush on Randall Grichuk since he was 17 years old in high school. Like, I've wanted this dude in a Phillies uniform so bad.
I thought you were going to say since like his rookie year.
No.
You went way back.
No. So the first time I ever saw him was
He was across the mall.
Yeah,
I was going to the movies.
He was across the mall. He was working at the Gap. He was folding those T-shirts.
This is 16 candles.
I said that's a ball player right there. No, the Sports Illustrated article that came out that put Bryce Harper on the map that said he's like the next one or whatever.
Yeah.
They mentioned this home run derby at Tropicana Field when Harper was a sophomore and he hit like the only home run with a wood bat or some crap. So I go on YouTube and I watch the video, and at the end of the video, they show all the players in the finals. One of them was Christian Walker from, I think, Kennedy Kendrick.
Yep.
And went to South Carolina. Now he's Gold Glove winner with the Diamondbacks, but he was a high school kid at the time. But you got Bryce Harper, Christian Walker, like all these beefy guys, and then you have this twig. And I paused the video, I saw the last name, and I went to his video, and it was Grichuk, like the most beautiful swing in the world. And I was praying to God the Phillies could get him somehow, and the Phillies didn't have a first-round pick that year. So I want Randall Grichuk because I've wanted Randall Grichuk since 2009, all right? Mm-hmm. Take it with a grain of salt. But Randall Grichuk was a name that was bandied about by people thinking that he could end up filling a need for the Phillies, which was the right-handed bat off the bench. Or a right-handed bat, period.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up Pache. Pache coming back. Yes, we all circle it in. Bob Cooney's not a big Pache guy at all. And Bob will point to, like, he's had less than 100 at-bats. Look, Christian Pache has looked good in those 100 at-bats. But are we ignoring possibly the career of Christian Pache, which hasn't been a lot, but it's been more than 100 at-bats? Are we ignoring that and getting blinded by a couple of good at-bats and saying, no, his position is cemented? Because I'll tell you, I liked what I've seen from Christian Pache in a Phillies uniform. But if the option is less experienced Christian Pache or more experienced Randall Grichuk, I'm taking Randall Grichuk every day of the week.
So I'll tell you what, I really liked Randall Grichuk at the trade deadline. He was one of the targets that I wanted the Phillies to go after in the outfield, and I really wanted him on this team. So you might ask me, what's changed? Well, I don't know if you guys caught the last month of Phillies baseball, but they hit 59 home runs in the month of August.
They did.
I don't give a damn about Christian Pache's at-bats or Johan Rojas's at-bats or, Brandon Marsh has been good this year. But, like, guys that can play the outfield that are plus defensively, this lineup has proven over the past month that they are good enough to mitigate those at-bats. I don't care if Pache can't hit. I know he can play a lockdown left field. He is a plus defender, and so is Johan Rojas. Yeah. And that's where the value of those guys are for me. Before the trade deadline, we didn't know that Rojas was a thing. We didn't know if this guy was a guy that would stick in the major leagues this year. Top talent when it comes to the prospects, but you never know. Guys get up and sometimes they just can't handle major league pitching. They don't handle the spotlight well. So there was a more open spot. Now I feel comfortable with Rojas defensively. I feel comfortable with Pache defensively like I had all year. I feel comfortable with Brandon Marsh defensively. And I just say I'm good with what we got, and I'd rather have the plus defense than the plus offense that Grichuk will bring you hitting with a solid average, having a little bit of pop. I just think this team's talented enough offensively, and I'll take the defense.
Ray, have I swayed you on Grichuk, or did that soliloquy end up winning you over?
I get really, really tempted by it because of exactly what you said, just kind of the pop that he's got and the fact that I think it would be a beneficial bat to have with you. I think the one thing that keeps me away from it is the Pache options and the fact that you're really out of them and you can't move him down. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing him. So I think that ends up with me kind of protecting. This is kind of antithetical to everything that I ever go with, where I am always like now versus the future. I just don't know if Grichuk is really enough for me to go, oh, this is the push in now move to sacrifice someone that you've liked what you've seen so far when your lineup has produced the way that it has.
So I think I wouldn't send Pache down and just want to get a lot of time and be a defensive replacement. And I'm not even saying Grichuk all of a sudden starts. But if I'm putting waiver claims in, it's Matt Moore, Randall Grichuk, and the guy that I'm probably sending down and just saying goodbye to is probably Jake Cave.
Yeah, it has to
be. Because, Ray, you're right. Pache's out of options. You don't want to lose him. But there is something to be said that this guy was hitting a career like $130 before he came to Philly. And if Philly's fixed him, that's great. But I'd rather have a more established player, at the very least off the bench. That would be Grichuk.
Right.
Give me a righty off the bench, and that was something that we were clamoring for at the deadline. We didn't get it. Now, everything that, Connor, you said about the defense, I agree with. I mean, if you can have two guys in Pache and Rojas who have gold glove level talent defense, that's really damn enticing to throw those guys in there, starting possibly, but at the very least in a defensive situation late in the game if you're winning it. But those are the two guys I'm going after out of all of these folks is Grichuk and Matt Moore. You, Connor, you said Matt Moore, Ronaldo Lopez, and Ray, you only said Ronaldo Lopez, correct?
Correct.
No bites on Lucas Giolito.
No. It's great.
Other than that, man, I mean, none of these names do much for me. Lucas Giolito's been hammered this year.
He goes in the Syndergaard category, where it's just like, where does he fit with this team now?
I would consider putting Lorenzen if they claimed him, which I'm not arguing for. If they claimed him, the argument would be you'd throw Lorenzen in the bullpen.
Right.
And then Giolito slides in. But, and Giolito, to your point, was a guy like Grichuk for you. I was clamoring for Giolito at the deadline. That's the guy I wanted.
Me too.
But he hasn't performed. He's been pretty damn bad. Did have a 3.79 ERA with the White Sox. You do wonder about going to L.A. if it just messed with them. But we'll find out if the Phillies claimed any of these guys. And after what happened last night and after what's happened this season with the bullpen, I would hope that at least they claimed one of these guys. I'm not a big Ronaldo Lopez fan. I'm not going to complain, though, if they do it, because at least they're doing something and they're not just sitting on their hands saying this is fine. But we'll find out. We'll find out later today, and I'm sure you'll see some more names coming down. Actually, no, you won't see any more names because the September period is over. Try the new Wendy's Frosty Cream Cold Brew in vanilla, caramel, or chocolate today. Taste for yourself how the perfect dessert makes the perfect cold brew at participating Wendy's only. Coming up, we have Ray. He wants to talk about a topic about the Birds, and we actually have a lot of Eagles talks to discuss because they didn't claim anybody. They had a couple players claimed. They signed a couple players to the practice squad, so we'll get all that and more. And we're back. 7:30 brought to you by Staples Stores. Staples school savings are always in session, from art supplies, essentials to the latest tech in stock at price low. School on, save on at your local Staples store. I have to head to Staples because I have to buy school supplies.
Oh, yeah?
Not for me.
Oh,
Going back for.
thought you were. A little summer school
For Jack.
ending. You got to get back to regular school.
No, he needs like markers, and I think he needs a binder for some reason.
How old is he?
4. He'll be 5 in December.
What does a 4-year-old need a binder
Dude,
for?
I have no idea. It's just on the list. You just buy what's on the list.
No, I got you.
I could not. I said the same thing. Like, what do we need a binder for?
What is he, filing stuff?
I mean, we have binders, but it's just because he has baseball cards.
Yeah,
So like he knows. Like, I think when he sees binders now, he goes,
baseball cards.
yeah, like that's what he associates it with.
Good parenting.
Now he's going to associate it with schoolwork.
Ah,
That's a shame.
yeah, they're gonna
You
ruin
know
it.
you're getting old when that happens.
So last year he started preschool, whatever you want to call it, and it was probably like the first week of school, and I went to go pick him up, and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. He had that heart to heart with me. Yeah, I think I'm done. Think this just isn't for me, Pops.
You gonna drop out and go ride the rails?
And I couldn't help. Like, normally I'm pretty good at talking him, down and trying to commiserate with him. And I just started laughing. I was like, bud, this is the easiest it will ever get for you. Like, you have nap time. I remember the culture shock I had in first grade.
Well, let's be fair. You and I still have nap time.
We do, but I'm talking like in terms of school, the easiest you got. And then I think it got progressively. When you reach your junior and senior year in high school, it got easier. For me, at least. Probably why I didn't get into Temple. And college, you can just do whatever you want. You can go to class. You can not go to class. It's up to you. Sally Mae will call you in a couple of years and want to collect, and you'll deal with it then. But the culture shock, man, of going from half days to full days in first grade was rough. I was not ready for that.
I don't even remember first grade, second grade, third grade.
You don't remember any of it?
Not really.
Oh,
Bits and pieces
Yeah, bits and pieces.
I mean, I remember a decent bit.
of first and second grade.
I mean, I remember. I think like enough to do a Cliff Notes version.
I remember probably who my teacher was, maybe one story, and a kid or two in my class.
Pencil
Probably
in
about it.
tomorrow. 5-minute segment for Pat. First grade. My story.
It might be more interesting than some of the other stuff we talked about. Who's to say?
Hey, that's for the listener.
632 0975. Ray, I've been teasing it, but you wanted to get something with the Birds and possibly them losing a game, which
That's true.
I don't like the topic, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll be the negative one today because I don't think they're going 17-0. I want to put that out there.
You see, people said that last year,
Yeah.
and then we got to
Here
like,
we
I don't
go.
know, week 7, week 8, and we were like, when are they going to lose? They might not.
And that's the exact question I'm posing to you because we all talk so much about late in the season, this schedule, and especially when it gets into Dallas right before the bye week and then moving, of course, through that gauntlet that comes later in the season. But I'm curious for both of you, going into that Dallas week, or even if you want to push that going into the bye week, when you look at the early 9 weeks of the season, where do you see that first loss? Where is the most likely loss in there before the bye?
Oh, buddy. You know what, Ray? I love you. And we're going to do this segment, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This is how I and Pat and our regular listeners here to the John Kincade Show in the morning can tell that you're
No, I
jumping
know
in.
we don't do wins and losses here.
This is wins and losses, and
I
I
know.
love it.
This is wins and losses.
He's on vacation, all right?
I have
Yeah,
them winning. I have them winning
I'll
week
get a
I
one.
don't have anything against wins and
I'll
losses.
get a text.
No, we're pro wins and losses. I love that it was brought
I
up.
like
in
the
this
Meek
way.
Mill song, wins and losses. Like I'm cool with wins and losses, man.
I have them winning week 1.
I have them
winning.
I have them winning week 1.
You like week 2?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you guys are really turning this into wins and losses.
No.
That's what it is. That's what it is. You dude, this is your topic.
Their first loss is going to come, or the most likely game for them to lose before the bye week is probably that 4:25 p.m. at the Jets.
Ooh, disagree with you.
Really?
I think if they're going to lose a game, it's going to be the week after
Oh, you think it's the Dolphins game?
against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are really good.
I just see a home game in prime time, and I say, is Tua coming into the link prepared for that? I get.
I mean, when you play for Alabama in the SEC, yeah, I'd say so.
Nah.
Look, I'm not taking anything away from Eagles crowds, but you play in the SEC, you play in some of the most hostile environments. Yeah, I think Tua is probably ready for the link.
Yeah, well,
We're talking like you're going into stadiums that seat like 110,000 people,
yeah, but half of them,
70,000 Philadelphians. Yeah, I think he can handle it.
half of them are kids who have no idea what's going on because they've been pre-gaming since 2 a.m.
They're loud. Drunk kids are loud.
That's a fair point.
Good point.
Drunk adults are loud too, and we got plenty of those here. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk for him, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be rattled by an Eagles crowd like let's say like a Carson Wentz would, or a Trey Lance, or a Brock Purdy.
To get to the more granular stuff, the actual football tangible
you want to talk
stuff.
about the games?
Yes,
Like a nerd.
a little bit. I look at Rodgers and I see more dangerous. I look at a road game and I see more dangerous. I look at that Jets team and I think they're a better team. Like, I think they have two young studs in Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, both rookie of the year last year on opposite sides of the ball. I mean, I really like that Jets roster this year. I have a lot of faith in them to be a good team, and I don't have as much faith in the Dolphins. I think it'll be a tough game. That's probably number 3 of the games pre-bye that I would pick is the Dolphins game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much right there with you with the Jets, but take everything you said and put it to the Dolphins. But the Jets are going to be a very interesting team to follow because are the Jets getting last year's version of Aaron Rodgers, which might just have been a checked out version of Aaron Rodgers, a guy that was kind of, I don't want to say going through the motions, but he does seem, if you watch Hard Knocks, he seems to be kind of rejuvenated by going to New York.
Yeah.
Seems to be rejuvenated by having the weapons that he does. This is what's crazy, and I meant to tweet this out when I was watching the show, but the first touchdown pass he throws to Garrett Wilson will be the second touchdown pass he's ever thrown to a first-round pick at wide receiver.
Yeah. Green Bay.
I'm sorry. Let me clarify that. It will be the second touchdown pass he's ever thrown to a first-round pick. That is nuts.
Yeah.
And that's how little Green Bay put around him. Where you look at this guy's historic career, and he's thrown one touchdown pass to a guy that was a first-round pick, and it was Mercedes Lewis. So the first touchdown pass he throws to this guy, he's got to be sitting there at whatever he is, 38, being like, holy crap, I actually have like legit wide receivers. That must be nice. I wonder how much it does for him. We saw what it did for Brett Favre when he did the exact same thing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers following the similar path. But when Brett Favre went to New York, he ended up taking that team to the AFC Championship game. I'm a little more down on the Jets than most people, but I could see them having fits with them. Absolutely.
So we have Statman Ark back there. I believe this is him on the board who put this up. Also, lest we forget, Eagles are 12-0 all time against the Jets. Have never lost to that organization.
I appreciate stats.
So
as usual, stats does great work. I
makes me a little nervous.
Give a rat's ass about all time blah 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 because Mark Sanchez is not playing anymore, and neither is Chad Pennington. Vinny Testaverde ain't here. I don't care. I don't care about all time. The past does not matter in current situations. This is different teams. You can throw all the all-time stats you want at me. Doesn't mean jack squat to me.
You don't think they're due for one?
No, I mean, I think that's my point. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
This stat tells you that the Eagles would win because they're 12-0. And I'm saying, no, it doesn't mean anything to me because it's completely different teams. And all of a sudden stats goes calm down. It's just an FYI.
Wow, you're beefing with a computer screen right now.
I am. I'm beefing hard. We got Matt back there popping off on the keyboard.
My dumb sports brain, when I see the Eagles are 12-0 against the Jets, I feel more confident that they could lose to the Jets because I'm just like, it makes no sense. You're right. It doesn't matter. But I've got the dumb football guy brain of they're in trouble. They just said the kicker's never missed a field goal from this range. He's going to miss it, which goes back to that whole jinx conversation we've had many times on the show. No, I go Jets 1. And, well, Ray, what's your number 1? We haven't even gotten to the guy who's...
Yeah, you asked the question, coward.
Oh, Sorry, I didn't realize I had to give answers here. I thought I just gave subjects.
No,
Let
but
you guys debate.
You want to sit here and ask wins and losses questions. You answer the question yourself.
Sounds good. Before the bye, I would go Dallas, Jets, Miami.
Dallas is my number 2.
I think that they're most likely to lose to Dallas. It's the weird they have to split against them, so at some point they might win the one down there while we're least expecting it during that tough stretch versus winning the one here before the bye. Again,
all right.
I'm not sitting here like, oh, I know exactly which one they're going to win of those two. It's the weird they have to split with Dallas. I wouldn't be surprised if each team wins on the road.
Let me ask you, hypothetically here, okay, they go into week 6, they're undefeated, which means 6-0. So they've beaten New England, they've beaten Minnesota, they've beaten Tampa, they've beaten Washington, they've beaten LA, the Rams. They lose
that
to
would be 5-0.
What did I say?
6-0. Anyway.
Yeah, can't count. Look, at least once a segment, I've had a hiccup. All right, it's like an Aaron Nola start where I'm cruising, home run ball. The next thing you know, it's like, damn, I didn't think he had a bad outing, but he gave up 5 earned runs. That's my show today. Perfect show ended. So they enter week 6 5-0. They win a close one against the Jets. They lose to Miami. Then they go into week 9 against the Cowboys, and they lose. I'm feeling worse about the loss in Dallas than I would to a Miami loss or a Jets loss. Whereas Jets or Dolphins probably sitting there going like, all right, whatever. It happens. This team's still really good. They lose to the Cowboys in the first matchup. That's going to be a little bit of a wake-up call.
Well,
because that's the only team that I feel like really you're contending with in the NFC.
Right. It's divisional. It's conference. It matters a lot more to the regular season and the playoff seeding to play the Cowboys, not to mention the emotion that goes with it. You're right.
But take the seeding and for the division and the all that out of it. Like if they were playing the 49ers and they ended up losing that game, while I would feel bad about it, the fact that you're facing the number one team, in my opinion, you're facing your biggest competition for the NFC, you need to win that game. So if they end up going out and losing that game, they can lose any game before week 9. And I'm probably going, what happens? It was in the schedule. Things happen. You're not going to go 17-0. But if they lose against Dallas on November 5th, I'm going to be like, oh, crap.
Well, the Niners game is more important.
And that's
because you only
why I bring it up, because to me the Dallas game is more important.
Well, it's mathematically not. You play them twice. You can lose to Dallas and still have a tiebreaker over them. You lose to the 49ers.
I'm talking confidence. I'm not talking. What you're saying is correct. Like,
well, even confidence,
seeding wise, all that.
You could lose to Dallas by a touchdown and come out and you get to play them again, and you could beat them by 40, and then your confidence is higher. The 49ers, you lose, you might not see them again until the NFC Championship game, and your last taste of them is them beating you. And not to mention, that game's at home.
God, you're making points. You're making points, Connor.
That's the plan.
Coming up, we'll have Wendy's.
That's the goal.
Wendy's is cool. It's a Wendy's Thursday.
Best part about Wendy's today is when there's less people in, when people take vacation.
Oh, yeah.
More sandwiches for the people who did show up to work today.
Knowing Bob, he would have shown up just to get the Wendy's.
He might be here right now waiting.
Probably is. It's not like he's doing anything else.
He's out in the parking lot to intercept the Wendy's.
Yeah, him, Tim, Rock, Glenn, they're pre-gaming with the Wendy's arrival.
I saw Bob yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Where?
So he came by my apartment.
For what?
Don't worry about it. Personal question. No, he was going to the Phillies game with Donna and Tommy. They went, and I have the parking passes that we use for our credentials and everything like that we get through the Phillies, being a media member. And he wanted the media parking pass. So I was like, it's in my car. He's like, I'll swing by your place on the way to the game. So we stopped by. I said hi to Donna. I said hi to Tommy. The last thing I said is, if they lose today, it's your fault.
It's on you, and you're not.
Guess what they did, Pat?
Games. They lost.
Bob Cooney's fault.
I think that's the logical conclusion.
Anyway, you were telling us about Wendy's.
No, I was just saying that we're going to get it. It's going to be cool, and it's the highlight when you're just owning me on the airwaves and making better points than me. Then my consolation prize is I'll get Wendy's. Connor, you want to have a serious conversation though, and it was something I think you brought up in jest, but now it's kind of real. It's one of those things you throw out, and it's like, well, I was just going to gauge the room. And if everybody laughed at me, I was going to go, I was just joking. But if no one laughed at me, I was going to go, no, seriously.
It's like when that super hot girl that you want to ask out, like your crush, you're just like, ha, how crazy would it be if we went to the movie sometime? Like, that'd be wild, right? Right?
Yeah.
In
I had a lot of those.
world? Here's Connor Thomas.
I could list the girls. I was like Shaggy, just listing Lou Vega, just listing all these girls.
Yeah.
And they all turned me down.
Well, it happens.
But I was joking, though, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's it. So
I didn't want to go to the movies with you.
it was in just why I first brought it up, partially because I'm afraid of the old heads out there. Because you old heads, like, you know sports. This is not a debate of intelligence. I know there are people of all ages that are very intelligent fans and know this, that, and the other thing. And frankly, you've seen a lot more baseball than I've seen simply by being around more. But I know the second I start the conversation about Bryce Harper and where he ranks all time as a Philadelphia Phillies player, some dude is going to call me who dedicated his life to Michael Jack Schmidt and say that I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And they might be right. But I look at what Bryce Harper's doing right now, and I wonder when we start to really have the conversation about, is he the greatest baseball player to ever put on a Philadelphia Phillies uniform? Bob Cooney would hate this segment because Bob is a prisoner of the moment.
Yeah.
And he likes to just say, just enjoy what's happening, and there will be a time for that. And that's a prudent way to look at it. But I didn't show up here today and turn this microphone on to be prudent. I saw Bryce Harper in a game that the Phillies really needed a home run on the doorstep of 300, mash one into the night like he's been doing for the past, what feels like 2 weeks of just hitting big home runs left and right and everything. And I just say, the postseason run last year was one of the greatest performances by an individual I've seen. The greatest in the city since Nick Foles, no doubt. And one of the greats I've ever seen on a baseball diamond. He homered in the Wild Card Series, the NLDS, the NLCS, the World Series. I mean, he hit the one to send him to the World Series. If you needed a big hit, the guy was going to get it. And this year, he comes back early from this injury and faster than anyone else from Tommy John. It feels like every time Bryce Harper does something, it's something you couldn't possibly fathom another human doing. And I'll be honest with you. You might not know this about me, but 28 years old. So I didn't watch Mike Schmidt play. There are guys before when I started watching the Phillies that have came and gone and were insanely good players. So this is more of opening the dialogue for this. This is not me making a grand claim saying Bryce Harper's clearly the greatest. There is no debate. But how long till he's in the conversation?
I was going to say, this is more of a, is he in the conversation?
I think right now he is.
I don't think he is yet. I think it's still Schmidt. Yeah, I mean, not only are you a 500, I think he had 548. 548 home runs, all with the Phils.
Right.
But you're also the greatest third baseman of all time.
Totally agree with you.
Like, defensively, the guy is just a stud. You add all that together, it's got to be Schmidt. Harper's more beloved than Schmidt in terms of playing. Like, when they were playing, it's, I mean, well known. Like, Schmidt got the majority of the crap from Phillies fans because they just expected him to, carry the team. Kind of like Harper has, to your point. Like, you need a home run. They expected Schmidt to do it. If he struck out, that he got booed. Schmidt didn't get the love that Harper is getting. And I think a big reason for that is Harper chose here. Schmidt was drafted out of Ohio University in the second round, and he was picked by the Phillies. He didn't choose the Phillies.
Right.
Harper picked the Phillies. Now, a nice $330 million contract was a big genesis of that. He's not playing for the veteran minimum here. But I think because he chose Philly, he will kind of have Teflon throughout his entire career. Looking at the numbers, though, Bryce Harper is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay, he's a 2-time MVP. If he retired today, I'm pretty confident that he's getting in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
300 home runs, as we laid out, 872 RBI. If at the age of 30, you figure he's probably got 10 more years, but if he retired today, he's probably not a first ballot Hall of Famer today if he retired, but he would get in the Hall of Fame. But his Phillies career, I go, not yet. Because for me, his Phillies career has been 5 seasons, and he's been injured in a lot of them.
Yeah.
He's played 2 healthy seasons, his first season and then his MVP season, when he hit 35 home runs, had 42 doubles, and won the MVP. And it was incredible, right? He led the league in slugging, led the league in OPS. It was great. Other than that, you're looking at injury. And I don't blame him for that. I'm not you can't help it if you get injured, but because of that, you look at his career numbers with the Phils. He's got, 116 home runs with the Phillies compared to the 184 with the Nationals. He's got 351 RBIs. He's got 54 stolen bases. They're not bad numbers, but they're not greatest of all time numbers.
No,
I think in 5 years we could be having that discussion. If he hit 300 career home runs with the Phillies, even though Michael Jack Schmidt hit 548, with everything that you've laid out, and let's say he does bring a championship to the town, which Mike Schmidt did as well.
Couple.
But that's the problem with Mike Schmidt too, and I feel bad for him. When the Phillies win in 1980, he's not looked at as the reason why they won because it was Pete Rose and the signing of Pete Rose getting them over the hump. So he doesn't even take credit for that. If the Phillies end up winning the World Series, you probably have to expect that Bryce Harper had a pretty big hand in it.
Yes.
So I think that lends to the discussion of
right, like how they play. The numbers are the numbers.
Yes.
Mike Schmidt, you're never going to be able to debate the numbers unless Bryce Harper has an insane last decade of his career, if he even gets to a last decade. But how they do it matters. And it's partially perception. But the other thing, and this is kind of what I want people to chime in on, 610-632-0975, you can jump in on this, is I watch Bryce Harper. I feel the emotions of when he comes up, there is not a person I can think of that I would rather have up at the plate right now in a big spot than Bryce Harper.
He's clutch.
And I can feel that clutchness. I remember standing on a table in a bar getting yelled at to get down when he hit the home run against the Padres in the NLCS.
What? Who's yelling at you?
Yeah, I know. Well, I was...
Read the room,
Some people were standing on chairs. I was legitimately on a table.
Read the room, bud.
It was a high top. I should not have been up there.
We'll get into that later.
Probably could have fallen over.
Unfortunately, we have to
but I felt that emotion myself. I'd love to hear from people who watched Mike Schmidt play and talk to me about the moments, because the moments are something you can only truly appreciate if you watched it live.
Yeah.
The numbers can be tangible, but that's another part of this conversation.
You're
I
right.
just think
each home run isn't made the same.
Yeah, I just think what he's doing right now and what he's done since he's been here is going to one day put him in that conversation, projecting out. When everything's said and done, we could be saying Bryce Harper's the greatest Philly we've ever seen.
I think one day. I don't think we're even close to having that discussion yet. But it's getting to the point where he's driving to the airport, but he's not in line for TSA.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd love
and
to
Mike
hear from
Schmidt's
people.
already on the plane.
Oh, Mike Schmidt is at the destination. I mean, he's been on the plane. He was in first class. He probably joined the Mile High Club, and then he landed and got his bags very early. His bags were the first one to come out. I mean, that's just how cemented he is.
Sounds like someone put the jack in Michael Jack Schmidt.
610-632-0975. Mike and Delran, just sit tight, man, because he does want to talk. He thinks we're scared of Dak and Brock Purdy. I'm terrified. I want to talk to Mike and Delran, and of course, I feel like I haven't had a show if I don't get to go Birds. And anybody out there who has seen Mike Schmidt, because we're just too young, but if you've seen Mike Schmidt, you've now seen Bryce Harper. Compare and contrast. What are the difference? All that. We'll get into that more coming up.
On Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Wendy's here? Not yet?
Not that I saw. I just had to sprint down the hallway to make it to the printer. Had to go to the other one.
Is that what we're calling it nowadays?
What?
We're calling it the printer.
No, the stomach settled a little bit.
Okay.
I haven't had any trouble yet.
We're not judging.
No, I'm good.
No one's listening anyway, but it's cool.
Do you
Just a
think the
little out of
fact
breath.
about coconut milk made you feel better?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I
You're
think
welcome.
so.
I'm basically a doctor.
Don't
No,
give,
you're
don't give
not.
yourself that much credit.
Basically.
You were
pretty sure it's
you were
illegal.
a guest here.
Yes, I am. So if I say something like that today, by Tuesday, it's not going to matter because I won't be back here.
Like you don't live here.
No, I don't. No, it's exactly why I'm going to say some things and then I'll be gone.
You want to be gone before that.
Okay.
I don't think we have another
We might-
option.
We might have to
I
go to the
dare
bullpen
you.
and call in Matt Menard. We might.
All right. Yeah. I
All
can
right.
do that.
In fact, Mike and Delran has more claim to this show than you do, bud. All right, doctor over here. What's up, Mike?
That's not right. Yeah, well, you know what? I agree with you. Unless Dickie Dunn can tell me what movie he watched, we all know what I'm talking about.
I watched The Natural.
All right, there you go. Good for you.
You finally saw it?
Yes.
All right. Well, there's a lot of other better ones you need to get on your schedule.
Yes, I will.
So a couple things real quick. That J for Jack and stand for J-O. That dude's a loser. Like, yeah, granted, he's probably the best Philly that ever put on a jersey. But it's fucked. I met him twice, and both times I wish I didn't. You don't get. I think if Bryce Harper wins one ring, he just needs one. I think he's the greatest Philly of all time. Not just the on the field stuff, but like, think about. I mean, I know at first I thought it was just pandering, but man, when he hit that 300th home run, the first thing he did was kiss the jersey. Like, that dude loves us here, loves it here almost as much as we love it here. You think about the players that want to play here with him. Like, I'm telling you, he might be. You might not be able to call him the greatest Philly all time, but he's definitely my favorite.
I wonder, and I stole this from, so I saw it online somewhere, but he's 19 years old. He comes up with the Nationals, and when he comes up in 2012, at the time there was the Phillies fans were still traveling quite a bit because the team was getting off that run, and his stadium's getting just bombarded with Phillies fans. And I wonder how much, if anything, that did for him. Because you step into Washington where they don't have a fan base because their team is relatively pretty new.
I think you remembered all that.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's looking around and it's like, holy crap. I mean, these people travel 2 hours to see their team. And I think you're right. He always wanted to play in front of a fan base like ours, and he truly loves it here. Whereas Schmidt wasn't as accepted. He just wasn't.
Yeah. You think like AI loved to hear, right? Brian Dawkins, but I can't think of an athlete who seems like he loves to hear more than him. And then
I agree.
Last thing, and maybe it's just because it was what time I turned the radio on, but it sounded to me like you two are afraid of Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. Like,
Sounds to me like you don't know what you're talking about.
No.
You need to listen to all 4 hours.
Okay, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, 'cause listen, guys, we are ready. We're on the verge of, I feel like, witnessing historic season from this team, dude. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to go undefeated. No, it never happens. But there isn't a game on that schedule that I look at, and even the Chiefs game that I look at and I'm afraid of. This team is going to roll. Dude, Joe Montana could come out of a time machine against that Niners game, and I don't think it's going to matter. I'm telling you, dude, we're talking about double-digit 3-touchdown wins week in and week out. This team is going to be a wrecking ball, and I fear nobody. And Scott sucks. Go Reds!
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks,
I
Mike.
appreciate it. So let me clarify. The question that Mike said he turned on the radio probably a little late. That's on him, and he's got to make good on that. He's got to live with himself for turning on the radio late. Question was before the bye week, and Ray Dunn posed the question of what game do you think is most likely that the Eagles were to lose? I said the Dolphins. You said the Jets.
Right.
And then we got into a question about, it was a topic really, about the Cowboys and the 49ers. I'm not worried about anybody in the NFC. Hypothetically speaking, were they to lose one of those games, that was really the talking point. I'm not scared of Brock Purdy at all. In fact, I think the path for the Birds got way easier when the 49ers traded Trey Lance because he's a complete unknown who got 4 starts. They traded him and they decided to go with Brock Purdy. and they would, I mean, Mr. Irrelevant, the 7th round pick, whatever, he's got some bad tendencies. And I think when some of these defenses figure him out, it's going to be rough. And then they might have to switch their mode to Sam Darnold. So, but those two teams, I mean, the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, as we sit here today and August 31st, those are the two teams you're probably going to be battling out with for the division.
Absolutely.
Because the division's so bad.
The conference.
Yeah. The conference is so bad, the NFC, that you're looking at it, okay, who are the tough teams? Well, the team that you played against in the NFC Championship game, that would be the 49ers. They're coming back there. Their quarterback's healthy, as if he didn't get knocked out of the game. And then you're looking at, they have a full season with Christian McCaffrey. They still have weapons in Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Like, they're not a bad team. I just don't really have faith in their quarterback. And then Dak Prescott always faces the Eagles pretty good, but everybody else, he kind of comes back down to earth a little bit.
He'll have those games where he'll throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns and just look nasty. He's just not consistent. He doesn't make good decisions consistently enough. Like, he's a gunslinger.
Yeah.
He's like diet Brett Favre. He's like Brett Favre without the winning.
Well, I was going to compare him to a little bit like Eli Manning. I never was worried about Eli Manning coming into Philly.
No, because
but he would have games where Eli Manning would throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns and no picks.
But he'd lose those games. Like, Dak wins against the Eagles. Eli never
I saw
really.
plenty of games where Eli beat the Birds. I remember one in particular where it came back with 3 touchdowns.
He had an all-time losing record against the Eagles.
I don't need to talk about the bad times.
No, but
he won games. That's my point.
Dak kills the Eagles.
Yeah, Dak always seems to find a way to make it difficult. You posed the question before we went to break about Bryce Harper, and is he the best of all time, but is he in the conversation yet of being the best player to ever put on a Phillies uniform? And me and you and Ray did not see Mike Schmidt's career. I saw him retire, and I was a couple months old, and my dad held me up to the TV.
You remember it? Like first grade?
Oh, I remember every minute of that press conference. I remember him crying because he just didn't have it anymore. He just didn't have it, and he walked away from the sport. But we didn't see his career, and we didn't see the magnitude of his, 548 home runs. And as we laid out, every home run isn't built the same. Some mean more than others. Bryce Harper has a flair for the dramatics, and he seems to hit some big ones. We're not saying that Bryce Harper is the greatest of all time. You didn't say that. I didn't say that, just to be clear. But is he at least in the conversation? Is he approaching that? And we asked for people to call up and give us the lowdown that watched both of their careers. And Adam from Fishtown was nice enough to call up. Adam, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good. How are you,
man?
Good. Bryce is a generational talent, but Schmidt was able to do it for so long, and it really, I don't think yet Bryce would be in that conversation. Give me another league championship. Give me a World Series. Give me more big moments like Bedlam at the Bank. Give me another MVP. Give me all-star games. Give me a Gold Glove or two. I mean,
it's pretty crazy that he's made one all-star game.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Schmidt made 10 all-star games, 12 all-star games, 12 all-star games, won 10 Gold Gloves at third base. Bryce hasn't even basically played defense for 2 years.
Yeah, Adam, that's a great point. I want to ask you real quick. So what's the biggest difference right now that Harper needs to overcome to be in that conversation? Would you call it statistics? Would you call it, I'd say everything you were just listing was accomplishments. Would you call it just longevity? What is, when you point to the biggest difference between what Schmidt did and what Harper would need to do, what do you think it is?
The parade, man. He's got to win it all.
It's a fair point.
So let me ask you, if Bryce won last year, where would he rank for you?
I mean, right up there. He'd be right there with the other great players on championship teams. The same as Utley, same as Howard. Those guys won World Series too. What made Schmidt's career also kind of special is, and a lot different than Bryce's, is that he came up with a bunch of guys who got good all at the same time. Luzinski, Boa, Boone, so
yeah,
that's what really made that era kind of cool, is that, they went from being really, really bad. Steve Carlton was their best pitcher, but he won a zillion Cy Young awards. But he won 27 games in 1972.
And they won like, what, 50-something?
Yeah. So he was on. So they went from there and like bringing these guys up the farm system, and then all of a sudden they're all-stars.
Yeah.
I mean, they played the 1976 All-Star game here, and, at one point you just look up the field, and it's all Phillies. It's like Dave Cash, Mike Schmidt, Larry Bella. So it was really, he was the best player of that era, but that whole era of Phillies baseball was special. Bryce's era was like free agent pickups and some guys from the farm system and –
Adam, and thanks for the phone call, man. I was talking about this with a couple of my buddies when we went to the game, and the conversation of this team compared to the teams that Adam was laying out that mirror my team, which was the '08 team. Because the '08 team we look at it like homegrown talent. Like Adam laid out how it was a pickup here and there, but really the crux of the team was built homegrown, and how this team, I feel like, is the same way, and people just don't even realize it because the best players were free agent pickups or trade deadline acquisitions or trade acquisitions. Like, I give the farm system credit when you go out and you get JT Realmuto because you had to have pieces to do that.
Yeah.
But last year he was the best catcher in baseball. So people don't look at it like he is a homegrown asset. Technically he's not. I'll use it as an asterisk though. Bryce Harper, he's the best player on the team. He's a free agent pickup. But when you look around the team, Stott, Bohm, Hoskins, if you want to look at, at this point, you could throw Rojas in there, right? The pitching with Suarez, throw Christopher Sanchez in there this year, Nola. There's a decent smattering of homegrown talent and good players too. But the problem is, and it gets masked because the 1980 team and the 2008 team, the best players were the homegrown talent. And the free agent acquisitions were kind of the complementary pieces. And on this team, it seems like the complementary pieces of the homegrown talent.
Yeah, I think it's also the money thing. I think it's a sticker shock. The price of contracts in baseball has skyrocketed recently. So when you see Bryce Harper getting over $300 million, when you see Trey Turner getting $300 million, when you see Schwarber and Castellanos both getting to or clearing $100 million, it feels more like what the Yankees did in the early 2000s than what it actually is.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like they're buying a team when really just contracts in baseball are more expensive. I think that plays into it too. It's an interesting look in from our last caller, Adam, about what the feeling around Schmidt was. And I find it crazy because I'm looking at our YouTube chat and there are people going left and right about, well, Schmidt had the gold gloves. He had this many home runs. He had this stat, and he was the best defender and this, that, and the other thing. And we just asked the guy, what's the biggest difference between Harper and Schmidt right now? And it's literally just the parade.
And that like when you look at the numbers, it's absurd. It's so lopsided. But for a guy that watched both, they go the parade. And I'm sure there's plenty of people on YouTube that did watch both. But the parade is important, and you can hop on the BetPar Sports app if you think that the Phillies will end up having a parade. I've done it. You can also hop on the BetPar Sports app and make your pro and college football futures bets. Now on the BetPar Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Ohio. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I myself have gotten into a few of the futures bets. I made one yesterday with the Birds. Made them to win the old big one.
Love that.
The old Super Bowl.
How many times have you bet that?
I laid out my game plan, but anytime I get a free bet, no matter what the money is, $2, $5, $10, I always put it on the Birds to win the Super Bowl. And I did the math yesterday, and at this point I'm at to win $280. And most of it is $2 bets, $5 bets, and I think I might have one $10 bet. If I have a pretty good week with betting MMA, I'll usually take $5 off the top and put it on a futures bet as well.
Gotcha.
I've already loaded up on baseball this season, so I'm kind of moving on from that, and then I'm moving on to football. So hopefully by the time the season actually starts, which is in 2 weeks, I'll probably be over 300.
You treat this like the stock market, dude. You invest and reinvest. I just say, I don't know. Aaron Nola's been pitching bad. I think he's going to pitch good. I'll take his over.
I'll take the $2 bet. Yeah,
that's it.
I do. I try to I look at it like investing in the future, and I've been pretty fortunate with it the past couple of years. I went into the Super Bowl this past year where if the Eagles won, I was going to win like 800, and if the Chiefs won, I ended up winning like 450, and it was primarily 98% of it was just on free bets that were given out. But yeah, that's my tip. John hopped on it, ended up cashing in last year. So, but I'll probably be making a futures bet too with the old Owls. Maybe they're over
5.5.
It's like last year I bet the over with the Owls, which was 2.5.
Yeah,
and
which was a great bet.
I made the biggest bet I've ever made, which I won't get into how much, but
$8.
No, it was way more than that. Like legitimately, it was like a big bet.
$9.50.
No, it was less than
$17.
He's already said less.
Oh,
I literally don't want to say just in case I have family driving around the car.
Okay,
because they'll be ready to like tattoo 1-800-GAMBLER on me.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I made a big bet because I had faith in Stan Drayton. I had faith in the coach.
As well.
But futures bets are where it's at, man. And I'm telling you, when once the season actually starts, if you do think the Birds are going to win it all, once the season starts, man, those odds are only going down. They're only going down and down and down. And right now they're second to in odds. But I'm talking about like the actual odds. They'll keep going down. Let's get to Brad in Lehigh Valley who wants to talk about Bryce Harper. Brad, you were on the Fanatic.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to make a quick point. This is coming from one of the biggest Harper fans out there. Did the DH being implemented in the National League kind of keep his legacy on track here?
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, he doesn't have Bedlam at the bank last year without the DH. They don't go on a World Series run without the DH. He is sitting out 2 years probably without the DH.
Yep.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean he's back, but like he's probably back in a pinch hitting situation only. The DH, I didn't think about it, Brad, about how the impact it had, but it really did because last year with the elbow and whatnot, yeah, they shut him down, and he might be back to be playing right field had he gotten the surgery when the injury initially took place. Might, but there's a pretty good chance that you don't have Bryce Harper for pretty much all this season, and they sit him because he's just such a big asset.
Right, yeah, because I think his defining moment so far is the postseason last year, and that does not happen without the DH.
Yeah, but Brad, I mean, baseball is moments, right? Because it's such an individual sport. Like statistics will always be there, but you think Kirk Gibson's home run was a pinch hit. I mean, he didn't play the field in that one, but no one remembers, oh, well, he didn't play the field. They remember him rounding the bases and fist pumping in a game he shouldn't have played in. Like, that's
nobody remembers Jose Canseco had 2 home runs in that game.
Only you, Patrick. But that's my point, Brad. When I look at the Bryce Harper conversation right now, the reason why I start to wonder if he's close to Schmidt is just because of the moments he creates when he plays. Not so much that he's doing all this or fielding as well as Schmidt ever fielded or playing what position, but I just feel like whenever the Phillies have a big moment, it's number 3 related.
Absolutely.
It is. I mean, and Brad, thanks for the phone call. Like, he is the straw that seems to stir the drink. But what Brad brings up is it's a good point. Like, he definitely benefited more than anybody, and they brought that up. They brought that up repeatedly. That the Phillies, and I'm talking the Phillies, have brought it up. They benefited big time. They benefited the most from the DH spot. But baseball is a sport that has evolved, albeit very slowly, especially in technology. They move at a snail's pace. But baseball is a sport that has evolved, whether it be rule changes or whether it be like seasons. And when you look at Roger Maris's 61 season when he passes the Babe, it was 61 with an asterisk for the longest time because it was more games than Babe Ruth.
Right.
And it was looked at as, well, we have to include the asterisk because Babe did it in this many games and Roger didn't, blah, blah. And eventually the asterisk just went away because, like, that's baseball.
Yeah,
like,
thank goodness there's no asterisks on the current home run champ for a season.
Tell me about it. Yeah. So looking at Bryce Harper, like, when you look at, I think, most records or most situations in baseball, if you really want, like, every record should seem to have an asterisk because, well, yeah, Babe did it in less games, but Ricky Henderson and Ty Cobb, I mean, they didn't play in the same stadium, and Babe Ruth didn't play against black players, so does he get an asterisk? Like,
right.
Eventually it just has to all go away, and you just go, like, that is baseball. And for Bryce Harper, did he luck out? Absolutely.
Yeah,
he lucked out.
And maybe it's unfair to say statistics-wise that Harper will ever be in a conversation with Schmidt because the defense isn't there, and maybe the longevity won't be. But when I talk about greatest Philly of all time, part of that is I'm a big vibes guy. Part of it is vibes. It's the feeling. It's championships, but that's another tangible thing. It's just when Bryce Harper came to the plate, you felt like you were watching the greatest thing you've ever seen.
And that's kind of what I'm curious of people that watched Schmidt, because I don't know what they felt. I wasn't alive. I mean, I know the history of it, but I don't know. I think it definitely benefits Bryce Harper that the fan base was with him day one. And Mike Schmidt had to deal with crap from the fan base because it was like he could do no right. And and we have a history of this in the city, and I think it's why turning the page and giving a guy like Trey Turner a standing ovation is a really good sign of the future. But like, we've had a history of like, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, you're great, but this other guy. I mean, you look at years ago in the 50s, like Del Ennis was a local kid drafted in the first round out of Olney High School that is an all-time Philly great and got booed all the damn time. And the only time he was cheered was when he got traded to the Cardinals and he came back. Like, there's a situation of like the fan base was, yeah, you're great, but and Schmidt had to deal with that. Bryce Harper hasn't had to deal with that. It's been primarily a love fest between himself, fan base, whether it be pandering, whether it be Pictus, whatever it is. But I feel like we've appreciated Bryce Harper's greatness better than Phillies fans did 30, 40 years ago with Schmidt.
Well, like, let's look at it this way. You like presidents better who are presidents when times are easy and the economy's good and everything's going great and there's not problems with the country.
Shout out to Taft.
Whether or not those presidents are the one who caused it. Like, we remember the players for the era, not necessarily the era for the players. Like, we're not going to look at it like when we look back at Bryce Harper's career. I think whether or not it was we gave him an easier time, we're just going to remember we were happy. And that could be the fan base got softer. It could be that we're not as hard on players. I mean, we just gave Trey Turner a damn standing ovation. Like, the older generation will constantly say how this is a different generation of Philly sports fans. And in the moment, that's a conversation. But in 30 years, when we look back at it, maybe that turns into saying, okay, we were easier on Bryce Harper. We're going to remember him more fondly because of it. Like, the public perception all plays into this. It's a very deep conversation as to what goes into an all-time great anyway. But
I like the president comment. I mean, because I always looked at Woodrow Wilson as a scumbag. And you're going to lead us into World War I, bud? The Great War? Really? You think that's a good move, Woodrow? I didn't think so. Let's get one more in before we got a break. Lewis and Pennsauken wants to talk about Bryce Harper's spot on the list. Lewis, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, fellas, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hey, listen, I'm a big Bryce Harper fan. I really enjoy watching him. I really enjoy, what he brings to the table. I just have a little bit different look at as far as, like, with the greatest players. He'd have to do it a little bit longer in a Phillies uniform for me to even put him in the conversation. But here's the thing, though. When you look at what he brings to the table, also it has to do with the fact that we went so long with having a bad team. So to see what he's doing now and the team is doing so well, that puts it in context as well too. You know what I mean? We're coming off such a drought, with the Phillies and stuff like that, and now to get some really good feelings about them because of the fact that now we're competitive, now we're in contention. You feel like this team is moving forward in the right direction, and so that I think that plays a part of it. You know
does.
What I mean?
Absolutely.
But with Mike Jackson, I mean, it's hard when somebody hits a 500 and something home runs on the same team. It's hard to put somebody else in the conversation that doesn't have anywhere near that. You know what I mean? And Mike Smith, I was a big Mike Schmidt was my favorite player, and I'm sorry, everything that he brought to the table, the raw deal he got was that he was a little aloof, and sometimes people did not really gravitate. You know what I mean? They didn't like certain things about him, but as far as a player, I'm sorry, that man was he was a really great player.
Lewis, thanks for the phone call, man. That's Lewis saw him and favorite player, so that's kind of why we posed the question. And we're not, just to clarify if you're listening, we're not saying that Bryce Harper is. We're literally asking, is he in the conversation?
Right.
Because Mike Schmidt is seemingly so far ahead. Mike Schmidt is a guy that I think would probably, in his career, he's probably earned all three. new frosty cream cold brews from Wendy's. You know this.
Sure.
Ray knows this. Like, they have 3 flavors.
Yes.
And I think Michael Jack Schmidt rolls up to the Wendy's, and they just hand him the vanilla, the caramel, and the chocolate, and they say, which one?
And you get a
Which
straw,
one, goat?
so you don't have to worry about it getting in the mustache.
Yeah,
Has a
you
great
don't have to worry about
mustache.
that. You can taste it for yourself, how the perfect dessert also makes the perfect cold brew. You just have to go to participating Wendy's only. When we come back, I do want to get Tasty Cake Dom. I know that I was hoping that he called up. I know that he had points on this as well. And then we have game time coming up at 8:30 with life-changing prizes. Results may vary. Coming up next on the John Kincade Show right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
The John Kincade Back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
All right, well, I'm back. Most of the show is stuffing their face full of Wendy's because it has arrived, including, by the way, gentlemen, I don't know if you grabbed one. MBG, Mary Beth brought the Wendy's new Frosty Cream Cold Brew. She brought all 3 flavors. Vanilla, caramel, chocolate. Oh, you got one?
Yeah.
I didn't even look up. I'm just doing the read here.
A little ASMR. You can hear the ice rattling in there.
Nice item. You can taste it for yourself if you're wondering.
I will.
If you're thinking like, oh, that must just be for radio people, it might just be like a special thing. No, not for us. No, you can actually taste this yourself. You can taste how the perfect dessert also makes the perfect cold brew. Look at the straw going in
there.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. This is like the John Kincade Show after dark.
Ooh, yeah. That's some good stuff.
Listen to that jiggle. Uh-huh. Those new Frosty Cream Cold Brews are now participating Wendy's only. So go get you one. Deliciousness. Love it. Before we go into game time coming up at 8:30, I do want to get Tastegate Dom on because this kind of came organically over a topic that Connor brought up, which was where does Bryce Harper rank, and is he in the conversation? Not that he is, but is he at least in the conversation of greatest Phillies of all time? You brought this up to Bob the other day, off air, and Bob, of course, laughed at you, and it was half trolling, but like half actually posing the question of like, where does he rank?
And then Bryce followed it up by going yard in the game that day and then hitting his 300th in a go-ahead shot yesterday that should have won him the game. And
well, now me and Bob have got you texting us every single time he hits a home run, just saying greatest Philly ever.
Well, you might as well just say every game because that's what he's been doing lately. I wouldn't do it if he homered like once every 6 games.
His month of August was insane. I mean, it's like him and Trey Turner, their month was incredible. But one guy that I definitely wanted to talk to about it because I know he was around was our buddy Tasty Cake Dom. Dom, how are you? How you feeling?
Hey, Pat. Hey, Connor.
What's
How
up, Dom?
you guys doing, all right?
Good, man. You sound
great.
You sound
Great
good, man.
Conversation. Did Bob really laugh at that?
Well, yeah, you know Bob. Bob. We shouldn't even be speaking his name because you don't want to come to work today.
Bob and I almost always agree with Bob about everything. I got him 3, Pat. His clutch gene is like nothing I've ever seen before. I mean, the way he produces in the clutch is unbelievable. You can't put him behind the greatest third baseman, in front of the greatest third baseman in the history of the game. And you also can't put him in front of the greatest left-hander. I mean, Koufax was great for 6 years, Pat.
Yep.
Carlin was
half
great
his career
forever.
was good. Half his career was no. Yeah, I mean, Carlton slowed down towards the end when he was bouncing around, but he was incredible.
Right, so I got him 3. The thing that, I mean, there were so many good points about Schmidt, but Pat, you got to look at how many times Schmitty scored 80 to 100 runs because the guy could run like a deer. On top of everything else, he could steal a base. If the Bulls slapped one in the gap, he's scoring from first base easily. The guy could run like a deer. Was the best defensive third baseman in the history of the game. The other thing I know you guys do the lefty-righty thing. To hit 500 home runs as a right-handed batter is unbelievable to me. You look at that home run list, you got Mays, you got Henry Aaron, you got Schmidt. All the other guys are all lefties, Pat.
That's a good point.
Bonds, Ruth.
Now,
I mean,
Dom, let me
500 home runs right-handed is an unbelievable thing.
Let me ask you, why wasn't he more well-received by the fan base, in your opinion?
I'll tell you why. I do have an opinion on that. Because you had Larry Bowe and Tug McGraw on that team. That charisma oozed out of their ears. They the way Tug and Larry Bowe were loved on that team. They got all the love.
Dom, I appreciate the phone call, man. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. It's like the love of the Phillies. When you think of players that you love watching on this Phillies team, Bryce Harper is number 1 on the list.
Absolutely.
And you've got Tug McGraw with the positivity back then, Larry Boa and the dirt dog playing hard, doing the Philly tough thing of I'm going to put my hard head on and go to work. He kind of embodied the fan base. He was Chase Utley before Chase Utley, and then you've got Mike Schmidt, who didn't seem to have a ton of personality. Still doesn't. I'll be honest. Like, I don't really like him on the broadcast. I think we can do without it if we're being frank. But was so uber talented, and it reminded me a little bit of, my generation. The team that I grew up with was horrible. The Phillies team was bad that I grew up with. But the best player by far was Bobby Abreu. Wasn't even close.
I was just going to bring him up, actually.
And Bobby got a lot of hate by the fan base because he looked effortless doing things that other people struggle to do. So, one of the things you'll hear from Bobby Abreu detractors is he was lazy, which literally doesn't make a lick of sense because Bobby Abreu, I think, stole something like 300 bases in his career. So if you're lazy, you're deciding to do extra work and try to get on second base. It doesn't make sense. The other argument you heard was that Bobby Abreu only hit home runs when the team was up by a lot or down by a lot. Yeah, Bobby Abreu stole 400 bases in his career, and he hit 288 career home runs. And it was, he only hits home runs when they're up by a lot, down by a lot. The team was bad. He was the best player. He'd made it look effortless, and the fan base didn't exactly... I felt like they didn't exactly wrap their arms around him like they probably should have as the best player on a really bad team, but also one of the best players in the league. And when you look at Bryce Harper, it's just well regarded. When the team wasn't making the playoffs, there wasn't a lot of detractors with Bryce Harper. There were a few. We would take their call as well, but there wasn't a ton.
Yeah.
And with Schmidt, and you look at the genesis of coming up with a bad team like he did. It doesn't play well his first year. Then all of a sudden he turns it on year 2, and the rest is history. But he was surrounded by a lot of talent that he might have been slightly overshadowed.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? 2 quick points before we get to game time, and you can jump in 610-632-0975 for game time coming up in just a minute. The Bobby Abreu thing, not exactly the reason I was thinking of him. I'm glad you brought him up, though, because I look at him as a guy with really, really good stats, especially at his time here in Philadelphia, like fringe Hall of Fame level stats. I don't know if he'd be in your top 30, top 40 favorite Phillies of all time because of public perception. And that's like the number one argument that I could think of as to, you'll never catch Mike Schmidt stats-wise, but is the love from the fan base enough to put Harper over the top? And the one other thing, I keep seeing this. I keep hearing this when I bring this up. Well, Mike Schmidt was the greatest third baseman of all time. Bryce Harper will never be like the greatest right fielder of all time, so can he ever be in that conversation? I'll ask you this. Could Bryce Harper, when everything's all said and done, be the greatest designated hitter in the history of baseball?
Oh, I mean, Big Papi's probably up there. I got to think about that.
That's the thing, though, right? We look at him as an outfielder.
Yeah.
And Harper could never be the greatest outfielder of all time. He's just not that good defensively to that level. He's solid defensively, but he's not that level. But if he's a DH... could he end up being the greatest DH of all time?
Yeah,
that might be and you're right. We have to look into it. I'm just saying, remember, there's another position he might play for a lot of his career now.
I'll tell you what, no matter if you're pro, this conversation or gets it. It was pretty cool yesterday when he hits that home run, and I turned to my 4-year-old and said, he's ours.
Yeah.
We have him. This is awesome. You know what else is awesome, Connor? Game time.
Yes, it is.
That's right. Little Kokomo. I was thinking of 2 songs, and this was the first song I thought of.
I knew it was going to be one of the two.
It's a lock. Now, I think when you hear Kokomo, you think vacation, because we have a couple of members of the John Kincade Show on vacation.
A couple? The whole damn show's gone. The
whole station's on vacation, basically. That's why you've got me and Connor and Ray in here today. We decided to come to work, but we decided to make a game out of their vacations. Now, I don't know exactly where Bob or John went. I don't know where Ricky went. I don't know where Andrew went. But I know that we have all been on vacation. We've been to some vacation spots. So Ray and Connor both wrote down 6 of their vacation spots that they've been to. Doesn't have to be local. It could be global. Could be anywhere in the world. They're going to give you 3 hints as to where the location is. You simply have to guess the spot. If you are confused, I don't know the answer to it. I don't know what spots they are. So you can use me as a lifeline. You can get involved at 610-632-0975. It's all brought to you by Wendy's. Introducing Wendy's new English muffins for breakfast. Choose a sausage, egg, and cheese, or a bacon, egg, and cheese this morning. I had one. It was delicious. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's breakfast at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours. And because it's game time presented by Wendy's, we have a $50 Wendy's gift card to give out. We have a pair of tickets for Oktoberfest. at the Philadelphia Zoo for Saturday, September 16th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. 4-pack of tickets to go see Temple Football Battle Akron on Saturday, this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Link, and a pair of tickets to go see Aerosmith with the Black Crowes on Saturday at the Wells Fargo Center. So 610-632-0975. All you have to do is just guess what vacation spot the boys are referring to. We're going to start out with John in the Northeast, and John, you're going to be playing with Connor. All right, so Connor, you got to give the clues here.
All right, John, you're going to get 3 clues. You got to tell me what the vacation destination is. The 3 clues are Keenan's, Watch the Tram Car, Please, and Best Show Ever.
Big Wildwood guy.
There you have it, Wildwood, New Jersey.
I would have gotten that
Easy enough. That's a good one to start with.
It's a good one, and John is going to end up winning himself a $50 Wendy's gift card. Introducing Wendy's new English muffins for breakfast. Choose a sausage, egg, and cheese or a bacon, egg, and cheese this morning. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's breakfast at participating Wendy's during breakfast hours. Let's keep it going to Tom in Westchester. And Tom, you're going to be playing with Ray Dunn. So, Ray, you're going to be given the clues here. This is your vacation spot. What do you got?
All right. I got Grand Tetons, Harrison Ford's Ranch, and Antler Arch.
Geez, man, a real brain buster.
Yeah, that one's not Wildwood, is it?
No, it's not Wildwood.
Pat, you got a little lifeline on this
dude,
one?
I don't know. I'm gonna take a complete guess. Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Are you serious?
I had no idea. You know what gave it away? It was the ranch, and I thought of Yellowstone.
You can't name
And
5
Jackson
Tom Cruise
Hole.
movies, but you know Jackson Hole,
That's why I
Wyoming.
didn't
Because
say Yellowstone.
Jackson Hole is a big vacation spot for celebs that want to get away.
Why do you know this stuff?
I
I've
don't
never
know,
even heard
man.
of Jackson Hole.
I'm not proud of this moment, but I'm proud to give Tom from Westchester. You are going to end up winning a pair of tickets for Oktoberfest at Philadelphia Zoo. You get it, Bears and Zoos. It's Saturday, September 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. Enjoy a night of unlimited samples of more than 100 seasonal fall brews and ciders, delicious local food trucks, music, and amazing animals at America's first zoo. This is a 21 and over event. Get tickets at philadelphiazoo.org.
Who's Jackson and why is this hole so popular?
We'll move on. Let's go to Ben. Ben in Westchester, you're going to be playing with Connor. All right, Connor, you're going to be given the clues here. So, Ben, take a listen. What do you got?
All right, Ben, your clues. Phillies, white sand, lot of water.
Can you repeat the clues, please?
Of course I can. It's Phillies, white sand, lot of water.
Pat, can you help me out here,
Oh, it's
man?
got to be Clearwater, Florida. Gotta
Absolutely
be.
correct.
Oh, my man.
Yep, Ben, it's got to be Clearwater. We will be down there with Philly Sports Trips. I'm really looking forward to it for the Birds when they play Tampa. Clearwater's awesome. And we're going to give Ben another awesome experience, a 4-pack of tickets to go see Temple football. They're battling Akron on Saturday at 2 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field. All kids in 8th grade and younger can score a touchdown on the field after the game as a part of Parent-Child Touchdown Toss Day. Kids tickets on game day. Lowest $10. Visit owlstix.com. Yeah, Clearwater's a good time, man. Really good
Love
time.
that place.
Let's go to Rich in Levittown. You're going to be playing with Ray Dunn. So,
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
good, man. Ray, take it away.
All right. First Flight, The Lost Colony, and Duck Donuts.
Can you repeat those one more time?
First Flight, The Lost Colony, and Duck Donuts.
I'm going to be honest. I really don't know. Pat, can you help me out?
All right, First Flight was the giveaway. It's Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
Outer Banks, but yeah, we'll give it to you there.
Okay. All right. I mean, sorry, Rich. I mean, he says First Flight, and, that happened where? Kitty Hawk.
That's true. It did.
This is the problem,
Better
Rich.
known as,
Rich,
an attraction at the Outer Banks.
You get some guy named Dickie Dunn who comes on the show and he just starts making up his own rules. But Rich, you end up winning. You were going to end up winning a pair of. Let's give you the pair of tickets to go see Aerosmith with the Black Crowes this Saturday, Wells Fargo Center. Very few tickets remain, so if you want to go, you got to head to wellsfargocenterphilly.com for tickets. I had Duck Donuts the other day.
Their original location, Duck, North Carolina.
Did not know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes
Outer
sense
Banks
of why
stable.
why it's called.
Absolutely.
See, if I go Outer Banks, I'm going like John B., pirate ships, and something else.
I didn't know the crossover here between Outer Banks watchers and
Hoag life.
sports talk radio listeners.
Oh, you're such a kook. What a terrible, great show. Let's go to Rich in my favorite place. Rich in Intercourse, PA.
Hey guys, good morning. Doing a great job on the show this week.
How's Intercourse today? How's the weather?
We don't visit often, so
we don't.
Yeah.
I visited twice, and I have 2 screaming kids to talk about it. Yeah, we'll move on.
Let's just get it. Let's get into
Rich
the
has
quiz.
heard all the jokes before. He's not amused. Connor, go ahead.
All right, Rich, here are your 3 clues. Jaws, vodka cranberry, a type of house.
I know Jaws, but I'm going to go with Pat for a lifeline.
Dude, I don't know. If you have a guess, go ahead. I'm clueless on this one.
Just random guess. California.
No, I'm sorry. It's not.
Rich, I'm sorry, man. I let you down, and I had a horrible joke to begin with. What is it?
That would be Cape Cod. A vodka cranberry is called a Cape Codder type of house. A Cape Cod is a type of home, and Jaws, of course, filmed up
Those
there.
are good guesses, man.
Yeah.
They're good clues.
Couldn't all be layups.
Well, I just lost a listener. 610-632-0975. You want to get involved. Let's get Matt in Allentown here for game time. Matt, you're going to be playing with Ray Dunn. So, Ray, take it. Good. Ray, take it away.
All right. The Coliseum, Julius Caesar, pasta.
I'm going to have to go with Rome.
Bang.
Rome's a nice item.
Simple as that.
Rome is a nice item. And I believe Vince from Philly Sports Trips just came back from Rome. He did the Italy trip with Anthony. And I believe they went to Rome. So it's not just sports. He's a world traveler at Philly Sports Trips. But, we'll be going down there for the birds. Anyway, enough of the plug. Matt in Allentown, you were going to end up winning a pair of tickets for Oktoberfest at Philadelphia Zoo Saturday, September 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. Enjoy a night of unlimited samples of more than 100 seasonal fall brews and ciders, delicious local food trucks, music, amazing animals at America's first zoo. 21 and over event. Get tickets at PhiladelphiaZoo.com. That's a Jamie Lynch event if I've ever heard of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, got Jamie written all over it. But that's, for a beer drinker, that's a pretty cool event. And the zoo's awesome. My kid wants to go to the zoo like every day. All right, let's go to Anthony and Delco next. Anthony, you're going to be playing with Connor Thomas.
Hey, morning, boys. How are you?
Doing good, Ant. How about yourself, man?
Phenomenal.
All right, hopefully we can make your morning even better. Here are your 3 clues. The Bean, Cody Parkey, Ferris Bueller.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Got it.
The fact that Cody Parkey immediately gave it. I mean, the Bean was, yes, but Cody Parkey, that's a beautiful, beautiful hint. What a memorable game.
I can't think about Chicago without thinking about Cody Parkey.
I was on the air for that. We were doing in-game.
Yeah.
And Joe Stazak was here because Joe Stazak was doing post-game. And I thought that he made it. I didn't notice the ball came back on the field. And I'm like, nah, he made it. And Joe was the first one. He missed it. The audio is awesome. But, yeah,
amazing.
Good memories. Good memories. You were going to end up winning, Anthony, a $50 Wendy's gift card introducing Wendy's new English muffin for breakfast. Choose a sausage, egg, and cheese or a bacon, egg, and cheese this morning. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's breakfast. Participating Wendy's during breakfast hours. Let's get a couple more in here. Let's go to Scott in the Northeast. Scott, you're going to be playing with Ray Dunn. So best of luck.
Yes.
All right. We got Guinness, fish and chips, Notre Dame, Navy game.
Oh, you're in Ireland.
Oh, yes, we are.
The Notre Dame Navy, they're playing in Ireland this year?
They played last weekend.
They just did, yeah.
Did?
I had a buddy who went over for that.
Dude, if it's not Temple football, I don't follow it, obviously. But yeah, that's a good one. We see that we're finding out who the world traveler is and who's just the local guy. Ray ends up nailing that one as well as Scott. So you're going to end up winning a $50 Wendy's gift card that goes to Scott. Let's get 2 more in. Let's go to Brandon and Marlton, who's up next, and you'll be playing with Connor Thomas.
Was that a shot at me for not having options outside the country, Patrick?
Yes, it was.
All right, Brandon. Well, keep that in mind as we go through this next one.
You got it.
Here are your 3 clues. John Kincade hates this. Middle of nowhere, big heads.
How did I get the hardest one ever? I have no idea.
I didn't know John Kincade hates this.
Connor, a little help?
I can't help you. I'm the one asking the question.
Yeah,
Pat's got
Brandon,
it.
yeah, I got your lifeline. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to go with...
Hang on. Let me read you the clues one more time. John Kincade hates this. Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Big heads.
I'm going to go South Dakota. I'm going to go Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. There
he
we
hates-
go.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the location, and you're talking about the radio gimmick of Mount Rushmore. Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
All right. $50 Wendy's gift card goes to Brandon. My apologies for not understanding, but yeah, nailed it. You've been to Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
God, there's like nothing around there.
No.
They said middle of nowhere.
And it's too small. It's a terrible trip. I hate Mount Rushmore.
Selena is going to finish us off. Selena, you're going to be playing with Ray Dunn. I apologize that you have to play with Ray, but Ray, go ahead. Take it away.
The Walk of Fame, Santa Monica Pier, and Griffith Observatory.
California.
Where in California? More specific.
Venice Beach.
Ray is. I don't know where Venice Beach is close. I don't know what it's close to.
Ray's being nice.
Ray, I'll let you decide.
Let's be nice.
All right.
I'm a nice guy.
We can't afford to lose any more listeners. Selena, you're going to end up winning a $50 Wendy's gift card, so you can try the cream cold brews that we've discussed.
It was Los Angeles for the record.
Yeah, or the new English muffin. You can get the sausage, egg, and cheese, the bacon, egg, and cheese. Ray, I'm impressed by your list, man, because these are all places, I told you guys, like, places you've actually been.
Yeah, well, the problem was we need to get some international flavor, and the last two I have not been to. The Rome and Dublin I had not been to.
Okay, next time just lie.
Okay.
No one's fact checking Ray.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Are they checking your travel logs?
I mean, they could. Someone could steal my passport, and my biggest problem would be them finding out that I didn't go to Rome.
Crossing Broad and Fox 29 aren't doing a deep dive in your Facebook to find out if you've been there or not. Like,
you're not DB Cooper. No one cares where you fly.
Okay, well, I was just going to be honest with you. I thought we were supposed to be honest with our audience.
Jackson. Okay, so let's get. You've been to Jackson Hole.
I've been to Jackson Hole.
Why?
Yeah. My family wanted to do a trip.
To Jackson Hole?
It just happened to be that was somewhere we could go and explore. It actually turned out to be pretty nice. I didn't have a lot of expectations for it.
What else? Why would you? What else is on this trip? Did you hit Mount Rushmore?
No. Why would I hit Mount Rushmore?
Well, it's in the same thing. It's like in the middle of nowhere.
That's South Dakota.
Yeah, but isn't Dakota near Wyoming?
I mean, it's closer to us.
Generally.
Yeah, I guess it's all relative.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay.
Those are pretty big states.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I guess when I think of middle of nowhere destinations, I'm probably going Mount Rushmore is like 1A.
No, not over Yellowstone. No shot.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore stinks, bro.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore.
Well, I'm talking about where people would go.
Mount Rushmore's not on the Mount Rushmore of nowhere locations.
I have no interest of going to Mount Rushmore. You guys are making me the biggest Mount Rushmore fan.
Well, you just said it was 1A.
In terms of attraction to people like wanting to go to the middle of nowhere, yeah, I think Mount Rushmore's it.
No, Yellowstone clears it.
I think I've been to Yellowstone. I think. I did like a trip of like West Coast.
You thinking Yosemite?
I've been to Yosemite. That was it. I did Yosemite. Yeah.
No, you should go to Yellowstone.
Cool. It was cooler than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
I'm not really a nature guy.
Crazy. They named the whole park after a Looney Tune.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Makes no sense. All right. That was a horrible dad joke. 610-622-0975. That's Game Time presented by Wendy's. Thanks for everybody for calling up and the one guy who I let down. I do apologize. I didn't mean it. But, the good news is you can save money for Labor Day sales like Lowe's. You can shop Labor Day savings at Lowe's. You can spruce up your home for fall savings on, let's say, paint refresh. Lowe's knows home improvement. They do. I can confirm. So to Rich and Intercourse, you just head to Lowe's and you'll feel better about the fact that I let you down. We'll get into more Phillies and Eagles talk coming up next. John Kincade Show right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5. WPEN Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. Official home of the Sixers, Flyers, Union, and the best Eagles talk in Philadelphia. 97.5, The Fanatic. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
I'm a little weirded out by somebody on the show. This is quasi dirty laundry.
Who could it be? There's only two of us besides you, unless it's one of the folks back.
It could be
back down the hallway.
It could be Stats. It could be Haley,
Colin. They're all back there.
It's Ray.
It's not me. Joke's on you.
Have you noticed what this dude does during breaks?
No.
He does laps. I understand getting out of the studio, wanting to like walk around a little bit. You know,
just
talk to people. He literally is just doing laps
around the studio.
So the way our studio works, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But we have our studio, and then for whatever reason, there is a like hallway behind it, like a very narrow hallway behind our studio. You can literally do laps around the studio.
Right.
I mean, if you're sitting in like 4Q or something, you'll just see him just walk. He's on the phone, just doing laps. Are you trying to get your steps in or something?
Just trying to get out of the studio a little bit.
But after my
walk around,
after my steps rant the other day, because it's just like I understand walking around, but you're not talking to anybody. You're just doing your laps.
No, well, I'm doing plenty of talking in the time that I'm inside the studio, so I figured I'd just do a little walk around. This is new. This is a new behavior by me.
I was going to ask.
This is new to this week.
So you don't do this with Anthony?
I did yesterday, but this is again new behavior this week. I just need to get moving. I get kind of sitting here. I kind of get.
You want to get on your feet.
He's like a hamster. Got to get on the wheel.
You want to stand up and make it happen.
Yeah, just do a little walk around.
Leslie Knope style. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little bizarre.
I don't want to distract people back over on the business side of things. So I figured.
What?
I don't know, man. I didn't get a business degree. I have no idea what they're doing.
It's like Wolf of Wall Street back there. Like they pick up the phone at 8:59. That's when they start working. You know, like they're gearing up. They got a belly full of Wendy's right now.
Well, now I know that.
They're gearing up. In 6 minutes, you don't want to interrupt them.
Okay.
But it's just a little weird. Like you'll see Ray do one lap and you're like, oh, whatever. And then you see him do another one and you're like, what the hell is going on right here? Is he just trying to get his steps in? But as I said, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just a little bizarre.
It's a little bizarre. I'll be honest with you. I just kind of took stock myself doing it this morning. Like, I don't know why I keep doing this, but it's at least getting me out of the studio, getting me moving around. You know?
Why do you want to be out of the studio? Are we not good enough for you?
You are good enough for me, but you guys also leave the studio during the break. So pretending like, you guys are sitting there is kind of, misleading.
Usually when I am where you're at, I usually don't leave the studio.
Hey, listen.
Connor can attest. I rarely will leave the studio.
Pat hides in the corner in there in the darkness.
Yeah, the darkness is my friend.
Yeah, that's true. The fact that the lights are on for the morning show in here is kind of weird.
I don't like. If I could have it, I'd have the lights out. So we have this like black. The windows are blacked out for TV, but they didn't used to be. I would never have the lights on in there. It was great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll turn them off.
When we talk about athletes, like sometimes the bright lights, like people aren't built for that. Like I'm one of them. I'm not built for those bright lights. That's why I turn them down. Quick morality thing before we get back to sports. I went to Wawa yesterday with my buddy.
Okay.
And I'm wondering where you guys side on this. So Wawa is kind of rolling out these new-ish, like self-checkouts.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And they're great. Like I don't have to stand in line and, wait for someone to pay for gas or what have you. I can just quickly do it. And once you kind of get the hang of it, it's great if you don't have a lot of items. My buddy got a fountain drink. And he gets like the big one. I'm talking like 500 calories full of chemicals.
A mega gulp.
Yeah, like this dude's going hard. Where you probably see somebody with this size drink and you go, he's probably going through something or he's getting ready to have a good time. One of the two.
Yeah.
So we're checking out and he goes and types it in and he clicks the small. And I didn't really think anything of it. I noticed it. I didn't think anything of it. And obviously, like, he got an extra large. He didn't get a small. Checks out. We get in the car. And I'm like, did you do that intentionally? And he goes, yeah. I'm not sitting here paying for the extra large if they're not going They're going to allow me to do it? I'm not going to sit here and do is that scumbag behavior, blah, blah, blah. But would you do it?
No.
So you go to Wawa, you get the extra large. You were clicking the extra large button knowing it'll probably cost you $1.50 more.
Absolutely. I got the extra large.
All right. So you're on that side of it. Ray, be honest. Like, no one's listening. It's just us girls.
Yeah, I'd probably do it.
I got to be honest. Like, at first I went like, that ain't right. And then I was like, what? Soda tax and whatnot in the city? Like, I might. Like, I was torn on it. I wasn't an immediate yes or no.
It's like $1. Just pay the $1.
Oh, excuse me, Moneybags.
Yeah, you start around big
I didn't know. I didn't know how much the Locked On Phillies podcast was making, but clearly quite a bit, Ray.
Phillies are playing well. We're doing well.
I mean, business is booming over here. He's just throwing GWs around. I wasn't aware of this.
Doorman, now he pays full price for everything.
You guys are
driving
stealing
a convertible, getting the expensive kind of gas.
You know what's wild though, right? If I was to go to like a restaurant where they give you cups for soda, and you get like a water cup, and then you fill it with like lemonade or something.
Yeah, I've done that before.
See,
I mean, I was like in grade school, but I did it.
That is basically the same thing as this, but I would do that and I wouldn't do this. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's the only reason I said yes to this is because of that example right there, where the water cup ends up being something very similar to this, so I can see the side of going to do that.
Obviously, I think the business would care. I think that they would probably not like it, but I do wonder how much they care because they also have to know that this is going on. They have to know if you give people the opportunity to pay less, they're going to pay less every time. No, and they're not getting caught. I was torn on it. I'm going to be honest. Like I'm not saying I'd do it, but I understood, I guess, the enticement. And I was curious of where you guys laid that out.
I tell you, it's one of my favorite memes is like me walking out of Walmart with the PlayStation 4 I just scanned as a tomato. It's just like, I love
see, I would never do that.
No, of course not. Like no. But I wouldn't
like
do that.
technically it's stealing.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm not.
I would never.
We're not advocating for it.
No,
We're
not
just
at all.
asking
I'm just like, and I would wonder.
Did you say something to your buddy?
I mean, after the fact, I asked him if he did it intentionally. Because he's getting his mobile wallet ready. He's quickly doing it. So I didn't know if it was an accident or not. I've also never seen him go that hardcore with a drink. I've seen him usually get the small medium. The little boy. He went big boy.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it was creature of habit thing. I was curious, and I had to ask him, and he just said, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. I ain't paying for it." Like he was matter of fact about it. He had no shame. But I wonder how much it happens. I wonder how much people just go and abuse the self checkout, because that's how self checkout goes away.
I don't know.
I like the self checkout.
It won't be me. When the downfall of the self checkout comes, I'll say I was on the right side of history.
You're the opposite of NSYNC. It's not going to be me.
No, exactly.
It'll be anybody else. All right, Connor, you in what world? You have
In what world? Here's Connor Thomas.
You have a great question about the bullpen and the issues that we seem to find ourselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about it a little bit today. The guys clearly in the spotlight right now, and not in a good way, are Craig Kimbrell and Gregory Soto after yesterday's game and the struggles late for the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. But I wonder who the guys are that you trust right now in the Phillies bullpen. Like, whatever their role. I'm not saying ninth inning, bases loaded, how many guys would you put in that spot? I'm saying in their current role, in a postseason series, who do you trust to get the job done right now in the Phillies bullpen? And can we come to like a consensus on these guys or get a general idea? Like, and I want to eventually get to a number, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the first part is, who do you trust? I think I've got to still say that I trust Kimbrell because he was an all-star and he's a veteran and he's shown you more good than bad this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still on that list. Jose Alvarado's there for me.
That's the only guy I trust.
Alvarado's the only guy in the bullpen.
Only guy right now that I trust. I mean, Kimbrell laid it out. The numbers. He's been bad his last 7 starts. He's got an ERA of like 6. His last 15 starts, he's got an ERA of like 4 or 5. Like, he's been bad. And I do worry about him leaking oil as you laid out. Craig Kimbrell is a guy that has had a career of not performing in the postseason. Well, was it because he's been overworked? Was it because he got into October and he was just worn down? I haven't followed Craig Kimbrell's career enough to look at the numbers of August to September, and I can do it real quick, but I do wonder if this tracks. If this recent struggle of his is basically what he's been doing his entire career, or if this is an outlier. Who else you got?
That's the thing. I think
anybody else.
I think I might have Kimbrell just because I'm afraid to only have like two guys. Jeff Hoffman might be getting close in his role. If we're in a postseason series and it's a 2-run game in like the 6th inning, and the starter has gotten into deep counts, and you want to go ahead and save him for later on or whatever, and you go to Jeff Hoffman there, I think I trust him in that spot.
Yeah, he's been a nice find. Former first-round pick, has talent, waiver claim. And the Phillies in 08 had successful waiver claims, so it's not like this is
right.
This doesn't happen. But I don't know if I necessarily have the utmost confidence in him. But when he comes into a game, I'm no longer going like, oh God, I'm not sitting on the edge of my seat. I'm not moving up to the edge of my seat. I'm kind of bracing myself for a clean inning.
So it's probably easier to say who we don't have trust in. I don't trust Sir Anthony.
No.
He hasn't had a good enough year. The talent's there. I don't trust Soto, and I was a huge Soto guy. I think the stuff's really good, but the control's not great. And he's what Alvarado was when Alvarado got sent down. But he's just consistently been that guy. There has been no turnaround for him. I don't trust Covey. I don't trust, name anybody else at the bottom of that bullpen. Bellotti just came up. I haven't seen enough of him to trust him.
I trusted him last year.
I did, but I haven't seen enough of him this year to trust him. Do you guys have anyone else that I haven't already named that you do trust?
No. I mean,
Right.
I trust one guy.
Yeah, I think it's Alvarado and still holding on to Kimbrell.
Okay, so let's put it this way now. Let's get to the second part of this. How many pitchers out of the bullpen do you believe a World Series winning team needs to have that you trust?
3.
You go 3.
Minimum 3.
I'd go higher than that.
I would go 4.
4's fine.
I was going to go 5 or 6. I think a World Series winning bullpen are deep bullpens that you have multiple guys that you can throw in big spots. Lefty on lefty matchup, righty on righty matchup, almost like both-handedness for each spot besides the closer role. But for the sake of you guys being lower, I'll call it 5. Let's meet in the middle and call it 4. Can this team get to, by the time the postseason rolls around, 4 relievers you trust? Like, do they have a path to that?
No, I don't think so. Not without claiming some of these guys on waivers. That's the only path I could see. And that's why I advocate for claiming Matt Moore. He's had a great season with the Angels. He's been a different pitcher since he switched to the bullpen. And I'd love if they went out him. You guys said you ran out of Lopez. I'm not a huge fan of running out of Lopez, but at least you're trying something new. He didn't have the worst stretch with the Angels, albeit it was a few games, but he looked good. Okay, if you want to throw him in there, fine. Like, try him out. He's only going to cost you salary. If it doesn't work out, you just, designate him for assignment. He's a free agent.
Ray, do you think they can get to 4?
Yeah, I think they get to 4.
Who are they?
I think you're going to have to claim one of those two. One of those two we mentioned, and Moore and Lopez to get to that 4.
The struggle with that is, if people don't know the way that it's going to work out, we'll find out today who is awarded any of these guys. You figure at least a few of them will be claimed. It will go to the team that has the lowest waiver claim, which is standing space. You would assume that some of these teams that will be battling the Phillies will be in contention for some of these players. Some of these players that the Phillies might want. So because of where they're at in terms of the highest wild card spot, it might actually hurt them in getting some of these players.
What if I told you there was a way to get to 5 without claiming anybody?
Talk to me.
Craig Kimbrell. He was an all-star start of the year. This is requiring him to be pretty darn good down the stretch. But if he's good in the final month of the season, I don't think it's a stretch to say he can win this fan base back over. He's been good enough over the course of his career. He's a veteran pitcher. He was really good the first half. He's not good right now. But there's a world where he settles in and he has a good September, and he's not Dylan Covey, however you say his name. I'm not even worried about it anymore. I've come over to the Pat Egan side of not pronouncing people's names.
When you're good enough, I'll learn how to say your name.
But he's not in that camp where it's like, this guy could never pitch in a postseason series for me. He's just rough right now.
If you're throwing any time to Dylan Covey, you're probably not in a good spot.
Yeah, so Kimbrell could turn it around. Alvarado, I feel comfortable with. Jeff Hoffman in a minor role, I feel good about.
I even throw, if you're going to Jeff Hoffman, and in a role in the playoffs, you're probably in a rough spot. Because
Well-
you're probably looking at a situation of you've either burned relievers and you need to get them rest, or your starting pitcher got hammered and you need 2 innings.
I think between Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman, one of those guys is going to be okay to use throughout the playoffs.
I think Strom you're going to have to use probably as a piggyback guy at some point.
Right.
I hate that so much. Hate it. I hate the idea of doing piggybacks. Like, I don't even like the idea of going 4-man rotation, but if you have to, fine.
Well, that's the thing.
The idea of doing piggybacks, like at this point, let's just make it like a 2-man rotation.
Well, you have a 4-man rotation. That means that Michael Lorenzen and Christopher Sanchez are now in the bullpen. And those are 2 more guys you can very much trust out of the bullpen. And that gets you to 5. If you go Kimbrel, Alvarado, take your pick between Hoffman and Strahm, and then add Lorenzen and Sanchez, and your starting rotation is then Nola, Wheeler, Walker, Suarez. It's not the most ideal thing, right? Ideally, you'd have a 5-man rotation and a great bullpen and a guy that you can flip between the 2. But with the bullpen leaking oil, I think it's important to remember that 1 or maybe even 2 of these starters could end up being really good bullpen arms for you in the postseason, and that makes it much easier to get through those later innings.
That's a really good like seeing the long game angle that you just played out, because you're right. Come playoff time, Lorenzen's probably in the bullpen. Doubt he's going to be in the rotation if you go to a 4-man rotation, especially. So he ends up being a guy that you can, I think, trust. I only trust one guy right now, and that's Alvarado. Strom's probably like a 1B. But yeah, if Kimbrel ends up having a good rest of September, if he ends up turning it around, you're going to have faith in him. So there's 2. Lorenzen's 3. Strom might be 4, and then you add in somebody else, and there's 5.
I think you got to hope that you catch lightning with Sir Anthony or Soto.
And that is...
Well, that would add even more to it. If you do, then you...
And that's where I was getting one of mine where I trust, because I think one of them has to kick it into gear.
Why?
I'd imagine... I mean, the stuff is too good.
Yeah, but they've been crap all season. Like,
Yes.
at some point, you just need to go like, hey, they're just having a bad season. This is it. I mean, and I don't look at it with every baseball player, but in terms of relief pitchers especially, yeah, they have outlier seasons all the time, and they just don't perform.
Yeah.
There's nothing that tells me that Greg Soto or Sir Anthony are all of a sudden going to become really, really, really good pitchers.
Yeah, but
I mean,
even an outlier month in a bad season.
You can. I need an outlier 2 months. And I don't have faith that Greg Soto or Sir Anthony
Outlier
at this point,
October.
I don't have faith that they're going to do it.
I'm not telling you I have faith, but when I start getting to the numbers of counting here, is if I'm going to go to guys I can trust, I'm going to need one of them to catch that type of month where they kind of figure out. Because even in bad seasons for a reliever, your ERA would be through the roof if you don't have at least 1 month where you're sitting in there with 6-7 appearances where you have a solid stretch.
Well, the bigger issue for me is those are 2 guys that, while I don't have faith in them, Rob Thompson goes to in high leverage situations.
Yeah.
Constantly.
But does that change when the starting rotation shortens?
Possibly.
And
I don't know.
That's what I'm
Because
holding on to here.
I could see Rob Thompson going, I'm not going to change. I've been going to Sir Anthony in the 8th and 9th. In the 7th and 8th. I've been going to Greg Soto in the 7th and 8th all season long. I'm going to stick with it.
And this goes back to the whole issue with the way that some people have been consuming the Philadelphia Phillies season. You look at the course of 162 and you see the flaws over the longevity, and you focus on them. Why is Rob Thompson setting this lineup? Why is he getting these guys rest when you don't need them? Why is he throwing these guys in certain spots out of the bullpen? Why is he pulling his starters so quickly? Baseball, more than any other sport, the postseason is such a smaller sample size compared to the regular season. It's insanely different the way that managers approach managing in the postseason to the regular season. Bryson Stott ain't getting a day off because he played the first 2 games against the Braves in the NLDS. You're not throwing Dylan Covey out there. Dylan Covey. I think it is Covey. Britton Covey messed me up. Anyway, you're not throwing him out there in a game against the Braves unless that game is lost. Like, the rotation shortens. The bullpen expands because you move those guys. Like, there's such a different way of managing in the postseason, and people get caught up on the regular season. And it's not wrong for some teams because you have to make it in. But we've been saying for a month now, the Phillies are going to make it in. So if we know they're going to make it in, we start looking at how is this team prepared for the postseason type of management. And I think they're better prepared for that than they might look right now, especially when it comes to the bullpen.
Well, you laid into another topic, but that was brought to you by Wendy's. That great rant that you just had was brought to you by the new Frosty Cream Cold Brew. There's 3 flavors that you can choose from. There's vanilla, caramel, and chocolate. You can try it today. You can taste it for yourself. We tasted a little while ago. You can taste it for yourself. The perfect dessert also makes perfect cold brew. It's at participating Wendy's only. Britton Covey ends up joining a lot of the players on the Eagles practice squad. They brought a lot of them back, including Aaron Siposs. And I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this, but it's a good problem to have that my biggest complaint of the roster is punter. Guys, I got a feeling he's going to be your punter. I just have a gross feeling that come week 1, they're really going to tell us that Aaron Siposs was the best out there.
If Matt Arise is the punt god, Aaron Siposs is the punt devil. He won't go away. We all know he's bad, and we hear he's bad, and you try and get rid of him, and he's just like, nope, I'm hanging around. I'm still going to cause problems. He's the punt devil. He's just hanging around.
So what would surprise you more if he's your punter week 1 or if he's not?
If he's...
We're talking Siposs here.
I'd be more surprised if he is your punter week 1.
I'd be more surprised if he's not.
I lean towards, I'd be more surprised if he's not.
Honestly, the way I kind of read the situation, the way they kept talking about how they looked at the roster like a 69-man group, like they looked at it as we can protect these guys in the 53 that we really want to protect, and look at it as, is there a market out there for Siposs to be taken away from us? And to me, it's like, oh yeah, we could probably bring that guy back without much competition out there. And I know they asked Howie Roseman about some point, I think it was Jeff McClain, asked about like, what are you doing at punter? Pretty much, if there's no Siposs, we laid out the worst case scenarios and we feel comfortable with the decision we made, or something to that effect.
I don't want the worst case scenarios though. I don't want you to put a guy on waivers or release a guy and then have him clear it and get to your practice squad, and then you say, this is the guy we want. No one else wants him. So unless you're comfortable with having the 32nd best punter in football with Super Bowl aspirations, that's not a good strategy for me.
I 100% agree with you, and it's just, I said it yesterday, it's hard for me to imagine there's nobody better than him. I think it's just an insurance policy. They're going to try some people out, but clearly the guy they brought in didn't work out during training camp. They
weren't centered up.
Insurance is fine, but when you got to collect on that policy, that means you're in trouble.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem like they have a good policy, which is the problem. But it's a good problem to have because it means the team's really deep. Most of the time, I feel like teams have special teams issues that you can probably look at, but they're probably ignored because of the fact that there's bigger issues on hand. For the Eagles, you look around up and down the roster, it's pretty much just one. The practice squad, some notable names that came back. Devin Allen is back. Britton Covey is back. Not a huge surprise just because Britton Covey was put on the practice squad last year and elevated to the main team and became your returner. Then you've got Teron Jackson, Kerryon Johnson, Joseph Nada, Aaron Siposs, Brett Toth, and Greg Ward. Brett Toth, I was actually a little bit surprised that he got cut just because he was one of those guys that they would plug in there in garbage time and whatnot. It seems like they're trying to develop him. So, and then, Kayvon Wallace ended up getting claimed by the Cardinals. Josh Sills ended up...
What a shocker there.
Yeah. Josh Sills ended up getting claimed by the Colts, and then everybody else just went away. Greg Ward is going to end up having like a 10-year Eagles career, and we're just going to not even notice it. It's incredible that he's back.
His jersey's going to go right up there next to Dawkins hanging in the rafter at the link. It's going to be Greg Ward's 84 up there, but it's going to be the practice jersey, the see-through mesh one that you used to wear for like Pop Warner games. Yeah, that'll be the mesh 84 will hang forever in Eagles lore.
I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know.
I'm just calling my shot.
Apparently, Nolan Smith is questionable for Week 1.
Yeah,
not a huge fan of that,
especially with Reddick coming off of that thumb surgery.
Yeah,
like
not that I'm worried, but I want to see him in game action so bad. But I also don't want him hampered by injury all season long.
That answer about it did not inspire much confidence for him playing. So,
not at all. But we'll see. You never know. The Eagles have a pretty good training staff and didn't deal with a ton of injuries last year. So hopefully they'll be able to stay healthy. I'm looking forward to, at the very least, hearing some punter news today. You figure they're going to bring in some people that are going to work out. I'm interested to see who they bring in. There's really only one name that I have a ton of interest in, and it's the punt god. But other than that, at this point, if they bring in anybody that's not Aaron Siposs, I've been there, I've done that.
Best we can do is the punt devil. That's all you got.
You remind me of Machine Gun Kelly with that. So I'm going to ignore it. PhillySportsTrips.com. If you're looking to see some of these people that we're talking about because they'll be elevated from the practice squad. If you're looking to travel with the Birds and maybe head down to D.C. for a memorable tailgate at FedEx Field, you got to go to Philly Sports Trips. Because Vince and the group of Philly Sports Trips, they ended up sending 1,200 fans to FedEx Field last year. Vince and the gang at Philly Sports Trips is the only group that can make going to FedEx Field a good time. It's it. He's found a way to do it. It seemed impossible.
You know what they call 1,200 people down at FedEx Field? A capacity crowd.
Trust me, the Commanders' ticket office is begging Vince to bring more, and Vince wants to. So he wants to break last year's record of 1,200 fans. Even Josh Harris realized, oh, crap, the only way that I can make this dump worth heading to is one of Vince's tailgates. So head to phillysportstrips.com. Vince has the entire Bird schedule laid out. So if you're looking to go to D.C. or really anywhere that the Birds are traveling, you got to head to Philly Sports Trips. We're going down to Tampa. We're going to Clearwater, but Tampa's the trip. Monday Night Football, so we'll be able to see Tom Brady. Wait. No, he retired. We'll be able... Oh, Gronk, right? No, okay. Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's it.
Yep.
All right. Should be a good time, though.
Kyle Trask maybe by then, right?
Look, I'll tell you what. I went to the playoff game with Philly Sports Trips and Vince and the gang, and I expect a better game this time around than last time, because last time was Brady in the playoffs, and it was ugly.
You could get the Brian Johnson, Kyle Trask reunion matchup. What a next level matchup that would be.
Just the rivalry renewed, some would say.
Might get flexed to primetime.
I mean, by the way, speaking of Florida, because Kyle Trask and Brian Johnson, have any of you guys watched the Swamp Kings doc?
Nah, I heard it was a puff piece.
Heard bad things.
I watched the first episode, and I had heard the same thing, that it was going to be a puff piece. I realized why it was a puff piece. You have Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow commenting on the record. No wonder it's a puff piece. They're not going to let anything bad, sully their name. You're not going to get bad stories of Urban Meyer other than, oh, he really wanted to win. You're not going to get any negative stories about Tim Tebow. Not that anyone's ever had any, but I'm not surprised it's a puff piece. Like when ESPN 30 for 30 did the Christian Laettner documentary, amazingly at the very end, they painted Christian Laettner out like he wasn't a giant draft bust.
Yeah.
And it was because Christian Laettner participated in the doc. Meanwhile, you look at the Fab Five documentary of Michigan, and they put all the blame on Chris Webber because he was the only one not to participate. So I'm not surprised that it was a puff piece. I really not. I would love to hear the actual story, though. I mean, apparently they didn't dive into some of the big issues,
which was the whole point of the doc.
And yes, and they didn't do it. And I think that Untold series has done a really good job with some of these documentaries. But that one, I mean, I'll finish it. It's 3 parts.
Did you do Manziel?
I did Manziel. I same thing. I thought that it was a little bit of a puff piece. Like it wasn't enough for me.
No, I thought they got into 50 minutes and then we're like, okay, we're just gonna wrap this thing up.
Yeah, it felt rushed.
That's not the end of his story. Like, cool, we know about the party and cool, we know about the business deals, but
I felt like I learned nothing new. Other than the only thing I learned new was he literally did not look at a playbook.
That and didn't come from oil money. Did not realize that.
Yes.
Did not realize that was a lie.
Great lie.
Fantastic
But
lie.
they're diving into the first iteration of this Untold documentary was so good because they were diving into stories that you were unfamiliar with. So everything was new. Now they're doing more high newsworthy stories like Johnny Manziel, like this Florida football team. And I think because of it, I'm coming out going, all right, but I didn't learn anything I didn't already know. I'm watching the Dansbury Trashers documentary and I don't know anything about that. So it's awesome. So I think they need to kind of go back to those untold stories, like truly the untold stories of it. But yeah, I'll finish it. I'll let you know how it is. We got one more segment to go. Cuz Radio is broadcasting live from, I think he's live today from Lee Course.
Yeah, Lee Course walk.
Outside
Awesome.
Maxie's, right?
Outside of Maxie's.
Great spot.
Yeah.
Great spot.
Pat, are you going to come next time we all go?
I wasn't invited the first time. So
it was an open invite.
Yeah, the open invites aren't an actual invite. But
open invite.
It's fine. I mean, it's always nice when the head basketball coach of Temple basketball buys you guys beers and, Jamie spits in his face by commenting on players that aren't in a team anymore. That was great
that was
look.
hilarious.
Great look for Jamie. Could have helped him out with that, but yeah, that was a cool move though by Temple basketball coach Adam Fisher. He found out you guys were there and he ended up buying you guys beers and whatnot. And so,
shout out Coach Fish.
Yeah, so that's
beer.
That's pretty cool. Future seems bright at Temple. I hope. God, I hope. But the football team starts on Saturday. You can hear the action right here on the Fanatic. Anthony will be getting people pumped for it today at Lee Course Walk. So if you're in the area, stop on by. We got one more segment to go. Pat Egan, Connor Thomas, Ray Dunn in for the
Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Every time I hear this now, I just associate it with Wolf of Wall Street, the song.
I don't even know what the song is.
Everlong.
Nope.
Foo Fighters?
Nope.
Band with pretty popular?
No, I know the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl.
Yeah, they have Dave Grohl in it. Used to be in a little band called Nirvana.
See, I like Dave Grohl because I could just, any big band that people are like, how do you not know them? I'm just saying, oh, yeah, the one with Dave Grohl. And I got a pretty good shot at getting it.
I mean, he's not in that many bands. He's in the Crooked Vultures, Foo Fighters, Nirvana. I think that's it.
Yeah, but like, I don't know.
He did some work with Tenacious D.
See, close enough.
But like,
it's more than most.
He's a celebrity I'd be actually disappointed if I heard bad things about him, because I've heard so many good things about him. Like, I've heard he's the man.
Yeah.
That I'd actually be disappointed if I heard a negative Dave Grohl story.
I can't wait for all the people that come in and are like, oh, you don't know Foo Fighters? I don't know.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of them.
I don't know, man.
Dude, live your life.
I like country music.
Yeah, I don't. That's where we differ.
Yeah, I don't know Foo.
I didn't want you to bring it up.
I don't know Foo Fighters, and you don't know Jim Bob Cooter. We're not the same.
Jim Bob Cooter is a former offensive analyst for the Birds and a former offensive coordinator for the Lions.
Plays a mean banjo.
But he does sound like a country.
I'll get you his album.
He does sound like a country artist. 9 o'clock hour brought to you by the Baxter Dumpster in a Bag. Just stick that whole music conversation in the Baxter, because you listen to country and I listen mostly to stuff that people don't listen to. So most of my bands, people are like, oh, okay. That's when you know you really got them on the hook. Don't really have a lot of mainstream taste. Got a good text from my buddy, Sean Galazinski, who reminded me. Forgot about this. This is a good punter knowledge by Sean. He said Steelers released their punter, Braden Mon. I think I'm saying that right.
Okay.
Eagles tried to claim him last year, but were beat out by the Steelers.
Why does he know so much about punters?
Dude, so this guy is in my fantasy football league. The one that I actually care about, because I'm in 2 leagues. And he's in the one that I legitimately care about winning and losing. I mean, I care about both, but like, this is the one with my buddies that we've been in.
Everyone has a favorite kid.
Yeah, exactly. Same league for like 15 years. And when I tell you nobody in the league does a deep dive like this kid, he is cerebral with it. He is Howie Roseman showing up at a frat house in his suit, breaking down game tape. His knowledge of sleepers and stuff, and it's really impressive. So I'm not surprised that he knows about the Eagles waiver claims of, punters for the Steelers. But it's a name to look out for, because clearly there was some interest there last year. I believe him, because as I said, he does some deep dives. But yeah, you had a fantasy draft last night.
I did.
And it was brought to you by Wendy's.
Sure.
That fantasy draft was absolutely brought to everybody by Wendy's. That's
if
why
they want to.
It's why it took so long. People were having trouble making their picks because they were enjoying the new Frosty Cream Cold Brew. Because you had one team arguing that vanilla was the best. And you had another team arguing that caramel was the best.
Sorry,
and you had another team. I apologize. Well, then you had another team arguing that it was pronounced caramel, and then you had the fourth team arguing that chocolate was the best. And you're sitting there going, guys, we got to move on. Just do me a favor. Try it at your own time. Now, the perfect dessert can also make the perfect cold brew. You can try it at participating Wendy's only. But you had a draft last night. How'd it go?
I did. It's for my Dynasty League. So it was basically it's only 8 rounds, but we had like 2 hours worth of voting beforehand on like rules and what
2 hours?
Yeah.
Of voting?
Well, we had to decide if we were changing to PPR. We had to decide if we're like...
it's 2023. You should be PPR.
Yeah, but we started this league 6 or 7 years ago. And we start... I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that we have to get through, and everyone's on Zoom, and everyone's talking over each other, and it's complicated.
Your commissioner needs to take charge of that then. It needs to be a very simple, all right, we're going to do a quick vote. It should not... rule changes shouldn't take 2 hours.
We couldn't even come to terms of what we were going to vote on, much less what the vote would be. It took a while. And someone's got to crack a joke, and someone's having a sidebar, and one dude's watching Ballers and not paying attention. And
you're watching Ball? That show's horrible.
I don't know, man. I wasn't. Talk to my buddy Will. But yeah, it was a fun draft.
Get help, Will. Yeah, I think every league does the whole rule changes thing, but for the most part, for us, it takes, 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, you do your proposal. You do a quick show of hands, and then you move on.
We're all idiots. You want to know how annoying my friends are with this stuff? is I almost cursed there before I said stuff.
It's okay. Get it out, man.
This guy wanted to implement a lottery system, like ping pong balls and everything, for the first pick in like the draft as we continue to do. Like, why are we making this so complicated?
Yeah, we've done that.
The last what?
We do that, yeah.
But you got to like build percentages and get the ping pong.
No, we do. It's
the
not,
last place team gets a first pick.
It's not because you've got teams like me that'll tank. If I know
that's
I'm
why we
out
have
of
a
it,
punishment.
I tank. So what? We don't do punishments. We're adults. But what we'll do
Soft.
is absolutely. But I got kids, so I got a family, man. I can't be out there like doing flying around the country like your buddy did.
Actually, we have a good thing we built in for that. It's called "Don't Lose the League."
What do you? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Harry Hardo over here with your league.
Don't lose.
So what we'll do is to circumvent that. Last place team gets 6 pieces of paper. The 4th place team gets 4. It goes on like that. And then you just put the names in a hat and you draw the names.
Too much math.
It's not what you did mortgages for a living. Well, the housing market did collapse.
Why do you think, baby?
Yeah. All right. So, but other than that, good time. And you ended it at like 11 o'clock. You said.
Yeah, I didn't get into bed until like 11:15 last night. It just takes a while, and we also like to. Everyone's taking their time because we don't really a bunch of guys down in Maryland and everything. That's the cool thing about dynasty leagues, right? If you do one with the same people every year, it's very easy to like pop in and out if you're redrafting teams. Like you have no commitment to it or not as much commitment to it. When you have the Keepers League, it keeps you more committed to being in year after year because you built for seasons out. And I get to talk to guys that I haven't seen in, some over a year. So it was cool to talk to some buddies.
I'm in 2 Keepers leagues, only in 2 leagues. You had a topic yesterday. I didn't know if you have it on the show sheet here today, but about how many leagues is too many leagues.
Yeah, I kind of stole this from Ray because initially Ray brought it up as a topic. He put it in his post or his pre-show email. And I had the same thought the same day because my buddy had just asked me to be in my 4th league this year. And it was a question about how many fantasy football leagues is too many for one season. Like, where do you draw the line? And for me, I would set it 3 is right on that line. 4 is too many.
I would say I've been in as many as like 5 or 6.
That's insane. So you're playing against your own players.
A lot of times what I'll do is I'll try to get my own player. Like I'll try to get the same players. No, it's not always possible, but I'll try.
But then you run the risk of I'm in 5 leagues and I suck in all of them.
And that has happened, Connor. Believe it or not, even a guy like me has struggled at times. Yeah, it's
hard to believe.
It's tough. This is just like a PSA, and I do feel like I'm being John Kincade with this one, but this is just a public service announcement because we are in the time period of fantasy football leagues. Nobody cares who your team is.
No,
nobody cares who you drafted. Nobody cares about your steals. Don't post your roster. Nobody gives a bleep.
I think there's fun conversations surrounding fantasy football because enough people play it. Like the conversation surrounding it, cool. Yes. The listing, I had this guy and he went off. Nobody cares, dude.
It's one of my big pet peeves on social media. It's a minor one. So what I've tended to do, and I seem to do it every year, I went back and found one of my fantasy teams from like 2007.
Oh, dope.
It has Jamarcus Russell, Dennis Northcutt. It has, who else? Like,
Sean Alexander, end of his career.
Reggie
on there.
Williams. I mean, like, throwback names that Reno Mahe, I think, is on the team.
Love that. Great pickup.
Like, throwback names that you completely forgot about. And I'll always post that and go, what do you guys think of my team? And it's blast from the past. Peyton Hillis is on the squad.
Was that his good year?
No, it wasn't. No, yeah, but hey, he always got the Madden cover to fall back on, so he's got that. Let me ask you. So Michael Lorenzen has struggled his last start. Christopher Sanchez struggled his last start. Where is this rotation at, and does it even matter because they're both going to the bullpen?
I was going to say I hate to do that. This turns into the conversation we already had, but those are probably my 2 guys going to the bullpen right now if you go to a 4-man rotation. Of course, this depends on Ranger Suarez's health. Right now, he's not healthy. He's not even pitching. So
I think he did a bullpen session the other day.
Yeah, I mean, not even pitching for the team as far as live. I know he'll come back before the end of the year, but then you got to see what he is. Like, he's been banged up all year long, starting with that forearm coming out of the World Baseball Classic, and he just hasn't looked like himself much at all this season.
He hasn't. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the slow start. the injury that took place, but he hasn't looked like. Well, there was a stretch, like probably midseason, he looked all right, and then wheels kind of came off the last couple starts.
Well, it could also just be workload. Remember, like we talk about the increased workload for Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler pitching deep into the postseason for the first time. Prior to last year, Ranger Suarez had barely cleared 100 innings, and he was a big part of that team, even though he threw out of the pen at some points down the stretch. I mean, he got a lot of innings in the 2022 season, so maybe it's just wear and tear from that, and his body's not used to it, because I think we forget how young Ranger Suarez is compared to how much he's contributed to this team. I don't know what it is with him. I just hope he can come back and pitch at a level that we trust him in a postseason start. But yeah, if Lorenzen and Sanchez go to the bullpen and Suarez comes back, a lot of ifs, but there's still a lot of time to figure out what these ifs are. But if those things happen, I feel good about Wheeler. I feel good about Taijuan Walker to eat innings. I feel good about Suarez if he's Ranger Suarez. Aaron Nola can give you, he can throw a baseball. Can he do it well? Depends on the day. As I listed out, I'm not as confident in the rotation as I would like to be.
No, neither am I. I don't think anybody probably is.
But it's not a lack of talent. It's a lack of consistency.
Yeah, this team is not consistent at all. Now, is there any concern that Michael Lorenzen has pitched really well this season as a starter, throwing him into the bullpen?
No, he struggled his last two starts, and I brought this up, and John called me crazy, and now we're hitting that point. He's reaching numbers of innings he's never thrown before in his professional career.
Yeah.
He's looked really good. He threw a no-hitter 3 starts ago.
I remember it.
Yeah, a wonderful game. If you forgot already, he was pretty darn good in his first 2 starts with this team. But we're getting into that stretch where he's starting to throw well past the amount of innings he's ever thrown in a pretty solid, sizable major league career. So, yeah, I think he's tiring. That's it.
It's one of the reasons why I'm a little concerned throwing him in the bullpen because of his workload, as you said. Hopefully, it won't really make that much of a difference. Hopefully, he just is able to be a really good relief pitcher for him. But it's also one of the reasons why I still want them to go out and address the bullpen with some of these waiver moves that thrown out. Now, you got a tweet from somebody that was like, "You guys want Matt Moore? Let's just bring back Aaron Harang and Jeremy Hellickson." Dude, that is such a caveman way of thinking. We're not asking for Matt Moore to come back to be a starting pitcher.
This guy was bad before, so bring back other bad guys. Like, that's not how sports work.
Yeah, the dude is a 2.5 ERA this season out of the pen. I'm sorry, I would take that right now because he'd be one of your better relief pitchers out of the bullpen. If you want to tell me that you have more faith in Greg Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez throwing baseballs out of this Phillies bullpen than Matt Moore this season, I can tell you just haven't watched enough Matt Moore.
Yeah.
Like, you got to get the mindset of starter Matt Moore out of your head and transfer to relief pitcher Matt Moore. And we've seen that happen where guys are starting pitchers, they flame out and they become really good relievers. And if Matt Moore can have a resurrection in his career as a bullpen piece, then good for him. But he's having a really good year. I would absolutely take him.
The numbers are the numbers. David Robertson did not give you anything his first time here in Philly. And you know what happened? He had a great season last year leading up to the trade deadline in Chicago. You go ahead and you get him. And then he comes in here and he's a part of your postseason push. Now, I know he got hurt celebrating a home run, but the point is the organization doesn't look at it that way. They don't say, oh, this guy was bad here before, so we're not going to bring him back. No, you look at what the reliever has done lately. And if they can help your ball club, you bring him damn back.
Absolutely. I don't understand the old school caveman mentality of, yeah, as you said, the guy sucked here before. I'm never gonna bring him back. It's in a different role, bud.
Yeah.
Completely different role, and it's a role he's flourishing in, and it's an area where the Phillies actually need the help. This report about the Phillies bullpen is brought to you by Lowe's. Shop Labor Day savings at Lowe's. Spruce up your home for fall with savings on paint refresh. Lowe's knows home improvement. Ray, you have a fun little, I'll call it a game.
Yeah.
You know, Thursday we do game time. We did it at 8:30.
We did.
You have another kind of game?
Yeah, no prizes for this one, though. Just us hanging out. Sorry,
Why
guys.
are we doing it
Then what's the point, bro?
I don't know, man. It's on the show sheet. I'm just following your guys' lead.
We're doing
on
a
this
game with no prizes.
No.
What is this? Whose line is it anyway?
Just for fun?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly. Already got Drew Carey over here.
No, I
The
don't.
points don't
Sorry.
matter and everything's just made up.
Yeah. There you go. Anyways, here we go. So,
My God, Ray.
maybe as a child or as a teenager or something, you played the game. Let's just call it Kiss, Marry, Kill instead.
Okay, I called it something else.
Yeah, but I'm going to say that
I
because
called it fork, marry, kill.
All right, hey, you could do that too.
That's risky.
Utensils.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with this and keep moving on this one. Success, solid, sit, and I've got a number of guys expected to jump into big roles this season following people leaving in free agency. The 3 players I have for you: Nakobe Dean, Cam Jurgens, Reed Blankenship. How would you rate him? 1 being a success, 1's just solid enough, and the other probably will need to be sat down by the end of the season.
Is this what we want to see or what we think we're going to see?
What you think you're going to see.
Okay.
All right, I'll go first.
Go for it.
I think when you're looking at success, solid, sit, which I like the name, by the way.
Thank you.
I think the most likelihood is Cam Jurgens is a success. Reed Blankenship is the solid, and Nakobe Dean would be the sit. Now, that's just based off of reports that we've seen. I think it's uber critical that Nakobe Dean is at the very least a solid. But if I'm having to pick 1 to sit, it would be Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that order, right? Cam Jurgens, I feel like the Kelsey stamp of approval is just so huge for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason Kelsey can do no wrong, and he's a clearly intelligent guy and a very talented player at the position. And when you tab your successor like that, you say, okay, well, we have no reason not to trust you. And then he comes in, Cam Jurgens, that is, Cammy Lotion's my guy, and he has not had anyone.
Cammy Lotions?
Yeah, Jurgens is like a lotion.
Got it.
Cammy Lotion.
Following along. Sorry, I'm not. Something about that seat where people just get all lotioned up. Sorry, my bad.
Big lotion seat over here. But we haven't heard anything since he's been with the organization to refute the fact that what Jason Kelsey said was true, that this guy can be a successor. So he's got to be the success. Reed Blankenship, we've heard everything out of camp saying he's your starting safety, no question. He's been really good. We saw him play last year. We've heard less about Nakobe Dean. It doesn't mean Nakobe Dean's not going to be good. Like, that's a Sophie's choice with the last 2 guys there.
Right.
But
I think he's the most unknown.
yeah, and that's why he's got to be the sit. But unknown doesn't mean bad.
No, it doesn't.
We've just seen more Reed Blankenship.
Marcus
And-
Epps was unknown last year. He ended up being really solid.
In a very similar way to Reed Blankenship, and that we've seen him play in roles where people were injured prior to last season, and then he gets the starter role, Marcus Epps that is, and looks really good. Like, Reed Blankenship is very similar to that this year. Nakobe Dean is just, who knows what you're getting, but he has the pedigree. So,
Do you think they've shown you a little bit of their confidence in what they have in him by going only 3 on the inside? And even though you know his concern about staying healthy and the fact that he is limited in experience, do you think at all the numbers game shows you any sort of confidence they have in him?
no, not at all, because it's existed before Nakobe Dean. They don't care about linebackers.
They don't.
It's not about confidence in the guy. It's lack of urgency to fill that position.
It is kind of amazing how little they do care about linebacker.
It works.
Now, Nakobe Dean is the second, third round pick that they've taken in the past couple of years. Davion Taylor did not work out.
No.
Nakobe Dean, you have a little more faith in, because Davion Taylor, that big thing was, oh, well, he's only played a little bit of football. People made so much of a big deal on the lack of high school he played, ignoring the fact that after high school you go to college, and that's how you get drafted. Nakobe Dean, he was this high-profile guy that you were talking about drafting in the first round. He slips to the third round, and the excuse wasn't that he was too small or that there was probably concerns with his makeup or anything like that. The concern was, a fake pectoral injury, a phantom injury that you didn't really hear a lot about. That was the line that was used. So I think because of that, the fan base has a lot of faith in Nakobe Dean. There is a world where Nakobe Dean is a very mediocre linebacker. I don't think that's going to be the case, but there is a world where he's a little bit better than Casey Matthews, where week 1, we sit there and we go, oh my God, there's a reason why this guy went to the third round. There's a reason why so many teams pass on him. And if that's the case, it's really going to be possibly a really bad situation for the Birds, because last year Kaiser White comes in. He didn't play amazing, but I felt like he was masked a little bit because of TJ Edwards playing so well. If they go into this year with Zach Cunningham, a pickup off the streets, and Nakobe Dean, for all intents and purposes, a first-year starter, or first-year linebacker, definitely a first-year starter, and they can't perform, we're back to the days of Alex Singleton. That's not really great. I'm putting a little more faith in the linebacking core than I probably should. And most of it hinges on Nakobe Dean.
Because you did say right there that you think, even though there's a possibility of him being a mediocre linebacker, it seems to be that you trend a little bit more on I think he's going to be solid.
No, I think he'll be. I do. I think he'll be solid. But I am worried about what happens if, right? Like, what happens if he can't keep up with running backs? What happens if he can't keep up with tight ends? And then week 1, we're sitting there going, all right, who wants to talk about it? Yeah, they beat the Patriots and the offense looked great, but who wants to discuss the negative? And that's Nakobe didn't look great. There's a fear of mine, and that's it. Because if Nakobe Dean doesn't perform to a solid level, then this team is, I don't want to say they're in trouble because I don't think they're in trouble, but that's a position they're going to need to address at the trade deadline.
Maybe, but I don't know. I just don't think linebacker has to be that important of a position if your defensive front is elite. And their defensive front is elite. Like, that defensive front can cover up a lot of warts on the back end of that defense. And if they're as good as we think they're going to be, and as good as they were last year, it may not matter. It's not the best way to go about it, right? You want to be good at every position. You want to try and always improve the roster. You want the players you invested draft capital in to work out and look as good as the pick you spent on them. But if you're winning games and you're getting to the quarterback and you're not letting running backs get to the second level, it's not going to be as noticeable. And even if it is, it's not going to cost them games.
Not right away, but I think the talking point would be, this isn't going to cost us a game.
Yeah.
But we also played a mediocre Patriots team. What happens when you play X, Y, and Z?
Okay. Hey, that's a fair point. I don't disagree with that. I just think that the front, like the interior defensive lineman, can help with the rushing game. The exterior
it absolutely
lineman,
should.
Yeah, it should help with them in coverage. I just think that front is good enough to make the rest of the defense, to elevate the other guys.
I think it definitely did last year. But we'll see. It's just when I say fear, I'm talking like it's 5 to 10%. I think a big part of my faith is the fact that he did go to Georgia. Put a lot of stock in that. He was a stud there. So
yeah, it's like it's a minor fear. Like you see a little like a daddy long legs outside. It's not even in your house. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna walk.
Like,
the
I
other
hope
way
that's
from
not
it.
a black widow because you didn't really pay attention in biology class.
Yeah, you don't know the difference between the daddy.
I mean,
long
I
legs
know
and
a difference, but there's some people that just see spider and they go,
oh, okay.
Oh God.
I thought everybody knows the daddy long legs.
I do.
They used to run around the summer camp all the time. But
yeah,
anyway,
I'm
getting sidetracked on spider talk.
I don't do well with spiders.
Bottom line, you're not too scared about the linebackers. You just have a healthy concern about where they're at right now. And Nakobe Dean could fill that by having a really good year.
You're not wrong. Let's finish off the show with Josh and Del Reyna wants to talk about what we were actually just referring to was relief pitching.
Spiders. Oh, relief pitching.
Josh, where are you at with spiders?
Hey, I mean, I'm a plumber, so I go into crawl spaces all the time, so I don't really mind.
Nope.
Out on that.
Nope. You're doing the Lord's work because I ain't built for that.
So my point on the starting pitchers turning into relief pitchers, I mean, I always look at it like this. One of the greatest relief/closing pitchers is Mariano Rivera. He was a starting pitcher.
Got rocked in Detroit.
Yeah, he had a 4.5 ERA, and he goes and he takes sometimes to develop. He learns a new pitch, and he just goes on and be the Hall of Famer. And I mean, there's no question about it. Obviously, when you're a starting pitcher, it's kind of like an Iron Man or an Iron Horse. You have to be in there consistently. You want to try to give at least 6-7 innings if you can. I mean, obviously, the game's a little different today, but typically there's this Iron Man mentality, and some guys, they can't do it. Some guys are, let me do my 2-3 innings, get what needs to get done, and then get rest up for the next day and then go from there. They need like a short burst. They work better with it.
Yeah, it's a sprinter versus a marathon runner. They're both great athletes, but one body type suits the other, and you got to find what fits the athlete best.
No, Josh, and thanks for the phone call, man. That's a really good reminder to people out there that, guys that tweeted at you that, oh, Matt Moore was a bad starter, so he's going to be a bad reliever. Yeah, Mariano Rivera came up as a starting pitcher. He was bad. I think it was against Detroit, or there was a story that Detroit tried to trade for him, and there was like one person in the Yankees that said no.
Smart man.
Something like that. I got to look back into it, and I'll have the answer for you tomorrow. But, yeah, I mean, the good relief pitchers are usually failed starters. Brian Wilson was one of the best closers in baseball for a stretch there. he was a failed starting pitcher in the minors. And you decided, you know what, this ain't working. I'm giving up 5 earned runs in 4 innings. I'm just going to be a relief pitcher. Ryan Madsen was one of the best relief pitchers during the magical run of the Phillies. He came up as a starting pitcher. I didn't even think he was a bad starting pitcher, but he came up as a starting pitcher. They made him a relief pitcher. So, yeah, it happens all the time. We'll find out if the Phillies ended up claiming anybody. Hopefully, I'm hoping that they did. I do think that this team could use some help, but we'll find out today. Don't forget that you can support life-saving cancer research. Join me and our generous partners, Paul B. Moyer and Sons, in making a donation to the American Cancer Research today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. Cancer Research saves lives. Coming up next, Anthony Gargano, but he is live from Leah Chorus Walk right outside of Maxie's. Getting you and everybody else all pumped up for Temple football, the return, September 2nd, 2 p.m., Lincoln Financial Field. Temple takes on Akron. How many wins do they have? The Zips. I'll walk away now.
That was a good one.
We'll try to do better tomorrow.